A great sorcerer announces to the world that the apocalypse is coming, and his vision is absolute. His ability to foresee the future has never failed, and the news spreads collective terror everywhere. But along with the prophecy of the end, he also brings a promise of salvation. 7 chosen ones, destined to protect humanity from destruction. The crowd immediately recognizes those legendary figures and goes into total euphoria, because among them are the strongest man in the world, the youngest rank S mage in history, and an entire team of elite warriors. With a lineup like that, the people wholeheartedly believe they're safe. It is exactly at this moment that the story of our true protagonist begins. A young man walking through the street city as the news shakes the world around him. 5 years later, on the prophesied day of the apocalypse in Tokyo, reporters are covering the end of the world as if it were the biggest sporting event of the year. Meanwhile, Ikidutsuki is nothing more than a street sweeper cleaning the city roads. He finds it genuinely strange that everyone is celebrating on the very day everything is supposed to end. Then he spots in a live broadcast a face he recognizes, someone he affectionately calls Mickey. She appears on screen destroying monsters with masterful skill, working as a government-certified sorceress and subordinate of the 7th Savior. The scene transports him back to his school days, when everyone laughed at him for studying magic without any talent whatsoever. But Mickey was always by his side, telling him he should not listen to the critics and that he should never give up. Back in the present, her words still ignite a spark of hope in him, and as if fate had listened, a glowing magic book literally falls from the sky right in front of him. Before he can react, 2 bully sorcerers appear, calling him a worthless magic trash and telling him to get back to his janitor duties instead of dreaming about powerful artifacts. Ikidutsuki's hope shatters. Everyone knows magic only awakens in children, not in adults like him. He stands there questioning why he was born completely devoid of power, but his existential crisis is interrupted by a tremor that shakes the entire city. An alert goes out. Enormous rifts are opening all over the world, exactly as the prophecy foretold. Monsters of all shapes and sizes begin emerging from the cracks. A colossal skeletal demon appears, as if it had walked straight out of a final boss cutscene. But right on cue, the broadcast announces the triumphant entrance of the 7 saviors. The team descends from the sky in a pose as if they were on a world tour. The crowd goes absolutely insane, fully convinced they're saved. One of the saviors, an arrogant blonde boy, tells everyone to stay calm, guaranteeing it would be dealt with in a matter of minutes. An older member of the team declares that the time has come to show the monsters the true power of humanity. Without hesitation, the 2nd savior charges straight into the enemy lines and instantly vaporizes a flying creature with a colossal energy blast. The crowd goes wild, absolutely convinced the monsters are done for, except a giant crab demon emerges from the smoke completely unharmed. Suddenly, the broadcast cuts out, leaving everyone without answers, and when the answers come, they are terrifying. The 2nd savior is shown completely obliterated. Seconds before, his dedicated fangirls were cheering him on with cute little signs. Now they are standing there soaked from head to toe in his blood. The frozen horror on their faces says it all. That was definitely not part of the show. It is a massacre. The so-called saviors are being torn apart all across the city, their bodies scattered through the streets. The crowd can only stare in stunned silence, too paralyzed to process the carnage. All that hope from minutes ago evaporates into pure, unfiltered despair. In the face of overwhelming power, the promised salvation was nothing but a lie. Ikiduki watches the disaster unfold with a pale face of shock. Even the arrogant 7th savior tells his teammate that they need to retreat immediately, but before they can escape, a golden-winged monster descends to finish them off. His partner shoves him aside and tells him to survive and inherit her rank, then absorbs the full force of the monster's blast head-on, sacrificing herself to save him. Ikiduki cannot believe what he's seen as yet another hero falls. For a brief moment, the blonde boy tries to run, repeating to himself that a savior's life is too valuable to waste. But something pulls him back. He runs back to her side, begging her to hold on. With a monster looming over them, the dying sister whispers his name, Ikiduki, telling him he must not run. But he stands his ground to protect her, and she has one final thought about how amazing he is. Even at the edge of death, she still manages to smile with pride for him, and that smile only makes Ikiduki curse his own powerlessness even more. He screams that he has no magic to save her. Then he offers himself instead, begging for the power to protect her no matter the cost, his eyes burning with pure desperation. And at that exact moment, a brilliant blue magic circle materializes on his hand. He raises it and the monster freezes in place. His sister can only stare, unable to believe what she's witnessing. Even Ikiduki himself does not understand what is happening to his body. Her spirit explains that she transferred her own power to him, unlocking the secret of his birthmark, and says with her final breath that he can save the world as long as he does not give up. An incredible surge of strength flows through him as the monster remains paralyzed, and she reveals that she had been keeping a forbidden book from the archives precisely to make that sacrifice possible. A pillar of light erupts from her body, finalizing the transfer. The story then rewinds 5 years, going back to the day the prophecy was announced. The focus is now on our true protagonist, Ikiduki, looking stunned in the crowd as everyone around him goes wild, cheering for the saviors on the screen. He gets knocked down in the chaos and, completely bewildered, checks his phone and sees that the date is exactly 5 years before the end of the world. He has been sent back in time. Around him, people are buzzing about the prophecy, some of them believing the end is near, but quickly brushing it off and putting all their faith in the 7 saviors. The saviors appear on the big screen, and the crowd goes absolutely insane. The first is Sagitatsu, the strongest man in humanity. Then Jumanseru, a magnet who practically rules the world. Next comes Agami Hanka, the so-called queen of the underworld. After her is Kaugi Rampo, a beast with apparently limitless magical power. The fifth is Ashia Kei, the ultimate brain who supposedly knows everything. The sixth is Suzaki Aori, the youngest magical genius in history. And finally, Iraki Leo, the handsome idol who rounds out the all-star team. The crowd is completely sold on this lineup, celebrating as if they have already won the war. But Ikiduki just stands there, unable to understand why no one else remembers the horror he witnessed. His thoughts are cut short by a frantic call from his mother, warning him that Miki just collapsed. He immediately rushes to the Takamina Medical Center, bursting through the door and calling out for his sister, only to find his mother standing by the bedside with a worried expression. The doctors cannot find anything physically wrong with her. Ikiduki understands immediately. This did not happen in the original timeline. He connects her condition to the forbidden magic she used to send him back. So he heads straight to his old school in search of answers, remembering a specific book in the school library. After a quick search, he finds the exact volume. Inside, a page describes the regression magic, an ancient and forbidden spell, whose payment is the caster's eternal sleep. Everything clicks. His sister sacrificed herself to send him back. But the book is missing key details, and his research is interrupted by 2 classmates, Iwashida and Kusano, fanboying over the saviors. One of them dreams of becoming the strongest sorcerer just to win over girls. The other points out that the 7th savior is the real celebrity, with millions of followers. Ikiduki just stares at the savior merchandise scattered everywhere. Knowing the truth behind that collective obsession, he recalls how 5 years ago, everyone blindly believed the prophecy, completely unaware that the 7 saviors were totally powerless against the real threat. A wave of panic hits him as he realizes the same horrific future is on track to repeat itself. Thinking of Mickey's sacrifice, he knows he is the only one who can change everyone's fate. Right when he is stealing his resolve, a voice calls out from behind. It is a bully returning to mock him for being a magic otaku whose only friends are books. The bully snatches the book right out of his hands, mocking him for still reading about magic, and continues to taunt him about having absolutely no magical power whatsoever. And since Ikiduki loves magic so much, they decide to take things outside, where the bully offers to show him what a real magic crust looks like. Ikiduki immediately recognizes the glowing sigil as a skill activation. He remembers how that bully's gravity magic used to force him to his knees, but this time he simply sidesteps the attack with a casual step. He doesn't even flinch. The bully is completely confused because the skill should have flattened Ikiduki on the spot. Kusano decides to jump in with his own thorn attack. Ikiduki dodges that one too, moving much faster than they can even see. He knows exactly what is happening. Their magic is useless against his overwhelmingly superior power level. His new magical power also gave him a massive physical boost. It all makes sense. This is the strength Miki gave him through regression magic. He remembers her mentioning a mark, and right on cue, a blue magic circle appears on his hand. The bullies get a little unsettled, but decide to attack anyway, calling his new mark disgusting. Ikiduki stands there calmly, wondering what exactly his new skill does, while it automatically targets the magic book Kusano is using to cast a spell. A system window reveals that the skill is gravity manipulation, and he has just absorbed the Thorn user's power.
Ikiduki is suddenly pulled into a completely different digital space with no idea what is happening. A disembodied voice welcomes him to the library, introducing itself as the librarian. A silver-haired figure then appears, calmly explaining that that entire realm is his new skill. He is still trying to process that the whole surreal experience is his own ability, and it's a pretty humble library with only 2 books on the shelf. The 2 volumes float down to him as he watches in total confusion. The librarian begins the tutorial, revealing that acquired skills manifest as books there. Ikiduki holds both, one glowing with a red sigil and the other with a green one. He gets it immediately. The colors perfectly match the magic crests of the 2 bullies. The librarian confirms that he has acquired their skills, which will now be stored in his personal archive. Ikiduki gets incredibly hyped, realizing that if he just reads those books, he can copy their powers. Better yet, the librarian explains that this is his mental world, so time outside is completely frozen. He can basically train in here for as long as he wants without losing a single second. Back in reality, the 2 idiots are still frozen mid-attack, waiting. The librarian warns him that the reading process might be difficult or even painful, but Ikiduki does not hesitate for a single moment, placing his hand on the first book. His eagerness seems to catch the librarian a little off guard. For someone who loves books as much as Ikiduki, this is basically paradise, a private library where he can read and gain powers. He's already imagining filling the place with countless volumes and becoming absolutely unstoppable. The librarian tries to mention a limit to the skills, but Ikiduki is already too lost in his power fantasy to listen. With a satisfied smirk, Ikiduki finishes his speed reading session inside the library, and the librarian can barely believe he's already done. Our protagonist confirms he downloaded everything, his eyes glowing intensely as he declares he now knows those skills inside and out. Back in reality, not a single second has passed for the 2 completely frozen bullies, who are still mid-panic, demanding to know why their magic has 0 effect. Ikiduki just marvels at the time stop, flexing the new magic crest on his hand. Right on cue, the gravity manipulation skill activates with a golden glow, which he immediately uses to defy gravity and lift himself off the ground. His opponents, however, get launched straight up into the sky, screaming their heads off. Ikiduki admits to himself that he was always jealous, convinced he could use their powers way better. See, the main bully only ever used gravity to crush people, but reversing it is also an option. So now, the 2 idiots are just flailing helplessly as they fly towards the clouds. The main bully is absolutely losing his mind, looking down at the rapidly shrinking school, and he gets so terrified that he literally wets himself mid-flight. But Ikiduki is not done. He activates the second stolen skill with a green glow, and enormous thorny vines erupt from the ground, snaring the airborne duo. They can only yell uselessly while they're left dangling high above the schoolyard. With a clenched fist, Ikiduki officially claims their powers as his own. Then he enhances the thorn magic to their absolute terror for the vines to sprout little harmless flowers, adding insult to injury. Ikiduki looks down at the pathetic bullies, telling them their skills were completely wasted on them. With a new cold resolve in his eyes, he's ready for whatever comes next. Looking at the crest on his hand, he thanks his sister for this second chance, vowing to stop the future that the so-called fake saviors were powerless to prevent, and swearing on his life that he will save Miki from her eternal sleep. But right as he's making that solemn vow, a hand suddenly lands on his shoulder. It is the 7th savior, this ASCII Leo, laughing as he asks
who exactly Isukiduki is calling fake. Completely floored, Isukiduki wonders what a world-famous idol is doing at his school. Leo casually explains he sensed some weird magic and came to check out the slander himself. And of course, the guy is live streaming the whole thing, offering to forgive Isukiduki for a slip of the tongue. He holds out the phone, demanding our protagonist apologize to his massive audience. But Isukiduki stands his ground, declaring it was not a mistake. They absolutely cannot save the world. He flashes back to the horrors of the original timeline, the chaos and destruction, and calls the saviors nothing more than scum who only know how to hurt people. Leo is visibly shaken by the sheer conviction in Isukiduki's voice. Our protagonist gets right in his face, screaming that he is no savior at all. The two are left in a tense, silent standoff in the middle of the schoolyard. Suddenly, Isukiduki's expression shifts from anger to pure shock, as if he has realized something. Leo's friendly idol mask drops completely, revealing a dark, menacing glare as he calls Isukiduki pathetic. Unfazed, our protagonist stands his ground, confirming he meant every single word. He doubles down, yelling right in the idol's face that he is no savior at all. And that seems to be the final straw. Leo's hand starts glowing with power. A massive golden aura erupts around him, and he asks if Isukiduki is actually challenging him to a fight, with the friendly mask completely gone as he calls our protagonist's defiance pathetic. Isukiduki's already sweating, finally feeling the overwhelming magical power of a real savior. Leo prepares to attack, but suddenly stops because some fangirls have spotted him and are screaming his name. A crowd starts to gather, completely starstruck that a celebrity is on campus. This public attention is clearly annoying for Leo, who just wanted to throw down. He decides to back off, warning Isukiduki that he just got lucky this time, and then flips the idol switch right back on, happily offering autographs to his adoring fans. Isukiduki is left standing there, realizing that if that fight had actually happened, he would have been toast. Barely finishing processing his near-death experience when he senses another attack coming his way. A fireball whips right past his head, narrowly missing him. The source is a pink-haired girl waving from across the yard, calling out his name. She runs over apologizing for her overthrown ball and asking if he's okay. She introduces herself as Kana Momo, a top-tier student from the advanced class and a future certified sorceress. These certified sorceresses are basically government-sanctioned elites who handle monster-slaying missions, and getting that certification is no joke since the passing rate is below 1%. Sometime later, Ikiduki and Momo are walking through the school halls, and she's pretty impressed that he handled those two bullies all by himself. She's sharp too. She sharply guesses he was a magic zero until very recently. Ikiduki plays it cool, confirming he has awakened a new skill. It turns out she's glad they got what was coming to them, and she finds the whole thing refreshing. Ikiduki recalls that she was one of the only people who was ever nice to him, wondering if she would believe his story. So he decides to test the waters, asking her what she thinks about the 7 saviors. Unfortunately for him, she's a total superfan whose dream is to be just like them. That's a definite no. She would never believe the truth about her idols right now. But Momo has a bright idea, suggesting he should get his new power level measured. Ikiduki is definitely interested in seeing just how much his stats have jumped. She leads him to the advanced class's exclusive training room with a fancy measuring device, explaining it also lets you fight virtual monsters, which is perfect for her own exam prep. This gets Ikiduki thinking. If he wants people to listen, he needs to be stronger than the saviors. He needs undeniable proof of his power so they'll finally believe his warnings. Without warning, he suddenly grabs Momo and hoists her up toward the machine's console. But a teacher immediately steps in, telling them this area is off limits to regular students. Ikiduki does not back down, declaring he wants to be admitted to the advanced class. The teacher's completely baffled since he remembers that kid being last dead in magic power. And to top it off, Ikiduki announces he's also taking the certified sorcerer exam in 1 month.
Momo jumps in to defend him, convincing the teacher to let them measure their power levels together. The teacher reluctantly agrees, letting them use the advanced training machine just this once. They are immediately transported into a virtual forest, a perfect dungeon simulation, according to Momo. She asks the teacher what level the monster is set to, and he confirms it is a simple rank E, a tiny bird monster appears, and Momo explains that fighting it will automatically calculate their magic power. She confidently steps up to go first, charging a powerful fireball in her hand. With a happy little cheer, she launches her attack and completely engulfs the creature in flames, except the monster emerges totally unharmed. Momo is stunned that her attack did nothing, and then the cute little bird suddenly transforms into a massive, terrifying rank A monster. The teacher panics from the control room, admitting he might have accidentally set the difficulty way too high. But instead of being scared, Momo gets incredibly hyped, realizing this is her chance to prove she is rank A. The monster immediately unleashes a volley of fireballs, an attack far beyond any student's level. It lands before them, and the teacher's voice confirms this is an opponent no student can handle. The beast swipes with its massive talons, forcing Momo to desperately dive out of the way. She screams for the teacher to hit the emergency exit, realizing this is seriously dangerous. Unfortunately, the safety device is not working, and a sinister voice declares it will not let them escape. Momo is already injured and on the ground, completely out of options and wondering what to do. The monster looms over them, its eyes glowing as it declares they have no choice but to die there. Then it dives straight down, aiming to finish them off with a single devastating strike. Momo can only watch in pure terror, knowing there is absolutely no way she can avoid this. Right as the monster dives for the final blow, Momo gets blasted backward completely defenseless, but Ikidoki swoops in using his gravity magic, casually asking if she's okay. The rank A beast is not letting up though, and immediately circles back for another attack run. So Ikidoki calmly states they will just have to beat it, which makes Momo absolutely lose her mind. Suddenly, time seems to freeze as he's pulled back into his mental library, where the librarian pops in for a perfectly timed lecture on advanced skill usage. It turns out he can combine the skills he's copied, a technique called magic addition, a high-risk move that doubles the MP cost and the overall power output. Back in the real world, Momo is yelling that he can't possibly win with just gravity manipulation, but Ikidoki just holds up his hand as both the gravity and vine crests begin to glow together. Momo can only stare in absolute disbelief at what she's seeing. He activates both skills at once, combining the powers of gravity and plant control. And as the monster dives, Ikidoki reaches out a single hand to meet the attack head-on. The beast seems to realize way too late that something is very, very wrong, because with a flick of his wrist, he freezes the rank A monster solid in midair. Then with a determined look, he prepares to unleash the second part of his combo, as a massive thorny vine erupts from the ground, rocketing toward the helpless target. It skewers the monster clean through, a perfect one-shot kill, and the rank A beast dissolves into data, completely obliterated by the combined attack. The simulation ends, leaving Ikidoki totally drained but victorious, admitting he is more tired than he expected. Momo is absolutely losing her mind, realizing he one-shotted that thing by combining two different skills. Ikidoki, on the other hand, is completely wiped out from the massive mana cost. Meanwhile, an arrogant-looking blonde kid from the advanced class peeks out of the control room, and it turns out he is the one who hacked the machine to kill Ikidoki in retaliation for messing with his bully friends. His jaw hits the floor when he sees Ikidoki actually survived and beat the rank A monster. The teacher rushes in, frantically checking to see if they are both still alive. Just as shocked as everyone else, he confirms Ikidoki really did take it down in one hit. The results screen is even crazier, showing Momo's impressive score, while Ikidoki's simply says error. The teacher has never seen a measurement result break the machine before, leaving him totally stunned. Ikidoki then turns to the lurking saboteur, casually asking if he was the one who tampered with the device. Before the guy can answer, a furious Momo grabs him by the collar, accusing him of trying to murder them. He tries to play dumb, but Ikidoki points out that his hacking skill should make fixing the machine easy, right? The kid gets nervous. Ikidoki's hand begins to glow, preparing to copy his skill. Forced into a corner, the saboteur puts his hands on the console and fixes it. And just like that, a system window confirms Ikidoki has acquired the electronic hack skill. Back in his mental library, our protagonist gives a satisfied smirk, knowing this new power will be useful.
The teacher is not letting this go, grabbing the kid and telling him he's coming to the staff room, dragging the pathetic hacker away as he's still trying to deny everything. With the immediate drama over, the teacher gives Ikiduki a long, suspicious look. Ikiduki just plays it cool, scratching his head with a sheepish smile like he did not just break reality. With his spot in the advanced class secured, the clock is officially ticking, only 30 days until the sorcerer exam. The teacher introduces Ikiduki to his new classmates, asking them to welcome him. As he bows, the other students are already whispering about the infamous Magic Zero joining their ranks. One girl immediately puts him on the spot, asking which of the 7 saviors he admires the most. The whole class seems to be mocking him, wondering why a powerless kid would even bother trying. Ikiduki just thinks back to Leo's threatening face, remembering the truth about the so-called heroes, and he bluntly tells the class he doesn't admire a single one of them. He then drops a bombshell, declaring that if they leave everything to the saviors, the world will perish. Ikiduki insists that everyone, especially the talented mages in that room, has to get stronger for themselves. If they all step up, he says, maybe they can actually prevent the end of the world, leaving Momo stunned. He finishes his speech by vowing to become stronger than anyone so they can save the world in 5 years. Of course, some jerk in the back is recording the whole thing, captioning it as "a crazy person joined the class." That student immediately uploads the video, turning his passionate declaration into a public spectacle. It instantly starts trending under sarcastic tags like "7th Savior Love," and within moments, his passionate declaration becomes a viral meme. People in the comments are even ironically dubbing him the next 7th Savior. Even the bullies he dealt with earlier are having a great time laughing at his expense. His face is suddenly all over the internet, with random people on the train watching the clip. It seems like the entire city is watching and judging his bold announcement, including a mysterious old man who seems to be taking this very, very seriously. Meanwhile, Ikiduki's viral speech has reached some very important people, including a ridiculously buff man with a massive scar, and it is being reviewed by a high-ranking official who seems to be taking this crazy person very seriously. Ikiduki's declaration that the saviors will fail to save the world has left his entire class completely speechless, and his plea for them to stop relying on heroes and get stronger together is not exactly winning him any friends. Even Momo, his one real supporter, is totally floored by his sudden passionate outburst. He finishes by vowing to become stronger than anyone, a bold claim for a former Magic Zero. The teacher quickly steps in to break the awkward silence, reminding everyone to prepare for next month's exam. But the damage is done, and the rest of the class just stares at Ikiduki with pure, unadulterated contempt. When the teacher leaves, he cannot stop thinking about how this kid was a total nobody just a few days ago. He makes a call to report on the situation, detailing Ikiduki's immeasurable power and his so-called heretical ideas. It turns out he is reporting directly to the old man from before, who listens intently to the news about Ikiduki's heresy. Instead of punishing him, the old man orders the teacher to write Ikiduki a recommendation for the sorcerer exam. After the call, he turns to someone else in the room, asking for their opinion on this interesting development. He is speaking to none other than Sagi Tetsu, the rank 1 savior in the world. Tetsu, however, looks completely bored by the entire conversation. He dismisses it entirely, stating he could not care less what some random student believes. As he walks away, he casually freezes the armrest of a chair just to show off his power. The old man, identified as the 2nd-ranked Jumon Sejuro, just smirks at his colleague's ice-cold attitude. Back with Ikiduki, the adrenaline has worn off, and he is now sweating with pure regret, sitting alone on a bench, realizing he probably shouldn't have blurted out the truth to a room full of hero worshippers. The fallout from his speech is immediate, with rumors spreading all over school as students actively avoid him. He gets it though. Before regressing, he was a hero worshipper just like everyone else. Suddenly, a fireball zips right past his head, forcing him to duck for cover on the bench. He looks up completely startled by the sudden attack, and it is just Momo, casually asking why he's so down. While twirling a flame on her finger, she plops down beside him, calling him an interesting guy for going from zero to hero to public enemy enemy number one. It turns out his speech actually inspired her, making her realize they cannot just rely on the saviors. Of course, he tries to lighten the mood, jokingly questioning whether the world is really going to end anytime soon. Ikidoki shuts that down with a dead serious confirmation, which completely shocks her. He explains that becoming a licensed mage is the only way anyone will ever take his warning seriously. Hearing his resolve, Momo gets a determined look in her eyes, declaring that in that case, they will just have to pass the upcoming exam together. Ikidoki cracks a smile, and she promises to treat him to ramen to celebrate when they do. Later, he heads over to a large medical center where he stands at the bedside of a girl who is unconscious in a hospital room. He tells her he's taken the exam, explaining there are only 4 years left until the apocalypse, and that tight timeline means he absolutely has to pass this year's exam to have a chance. With renewed determination, he clenches his fist, knowing this is his only shot. A month flies by, and it's finally time for the test at the Ministry of Magic's Grand Auditorium. As he walks through the halls, the air is thick with tension from all the other hopefuls, who immediately recognize him as the cringy guy from that viral video, mocking him under their breath. Just as the whispers start to get to him, a familiar hand lands on his shoulder. It's Momo, giving him a much-needed pep talk to relax and just do his best. He cracks a smile, feeling a bit more confident with his one supporter by his side. The exam room is dead silent, filled with rows of students all laser-focused on the test. Stage 1 is a written exam, and poor Momo is already looking like her brain is about to melt. Ikidoki, however, spots the proctor's computer at the front of the room, and a devious plan begins to form. Deciding to work smarter, not harder, he activates electronic hack, because why study when you can just download the answers? After the test, everyone gathers in the main hall to check the results board. Momo's jaw absolutely hits the floor when she sees the rankings. Ikidoki casually glances at his own name in 3rd place, knowing full well how he got there. Meanwhile, Momo's having a full-blown panic attack over her 11th rank, since only the top 30 actually pass. He just calmly tells her not to worry, completely confident that she's going to make the cut. This whole written test was just a preliminary round to weed people out. The real challenge is the practical exam. Elsewhere, a mysterious student is seen studying alone, hinting at some serious competition down the line. He is monologuing about perfecting the bind skill, and he seems pretty confident he has a special move ready for this exam. Back in the auditorium, the remaining students are gathered for the next phase. It is stage 2, a 100-person survival battle, and Ikidoki and Momo are in the same group. An official explains they will be fighting in a virtual field where getting knocked out means instant elimination, and only the top 10 scorers will move on to the final stage. He makes it crystal clear that this is where the vast majority of applicants are going to get cut. The pressure is on. 90% of the people in that room are about to fail. With a 15-minute time limit, the proctor snaps his fingers to begin the test. Ikidoki is suddenly enveloped in light as the virtual world materializes around him. He finds himself in a forest with a system window confirming the second round has started. Momo wastes 0 time, cheerfully leaping away with a fiery aura to go hunt for points. She immediately unleashes a massive fireball on the first poor schmuck she finds. And just like that, one contestant is officially eliminated from the competition. While she's celebrating her first point, Ikidoki just notes how she's a natural-born fighter. Unfortunately, his reputation as a weakling has already made him a target for a trio of bullies. Ikidoki realizes that being underestimated means he's about to have a lot of challengers. One of them immediately fires off an adhesive bullet, telling him it's nothing personal. That sticky-looking magic flies straight for our protagonist, and he simply sidesteps the attack with a casual step, leaving his opponent absolutely stunned. The next guy tries a smokescreen attack, hoping to blind him with a cloud of dark magic, but Ikidoki just stands there completely unfazed, leaving the bully wondering what is going on. So the third one activates Iron Form, deciding a good old-fashioned punch will do the trick, which our protagonist sees coming from a mile away. He catches the superpowered fist with one hand, completely nullifying the attack. And just like that, a system window confirms he's copied all 3 of their skills. He thanks the trio for the free abilities, his hand glowing with the sinister green light, and tests his own unique magic by summoning a massive man-eating plant that immediately swallows one of the bullies whole. With all 3 opponents eliminated, Ikidoki gives his new Thorn Master skill a thumbs up. Meanwhile, the proctors are watching this unfold, commenting on his truly abnormal power. The head proctor even wonders if he himself could land the hit on this kid. Just then, a new challenger steps onto the virtual battlefield. It's none other than Arakawa Ryo, the 7th Savior, making a flashy entrance. The proctor announces a sudden rule change that catches Ikiduki's attention. Any student who lands a single hit on Ryo will automatically pass the exam. It turns out this whole thing is just a publicity stunt for Ryo's channel to show off his power. He spreads his arms wide, arrogantly inviting everyone to try and fight him. Of course, he's just thinking of them as pawns to make him look good for the camera. The other students, however, see this as their one big chance and start teaming up for a comeback. Ryo smirks as the other students swarm him, sarcastically thinking how tough it is to be so popular. He immediately unleashes a massive wind attack, effortlessly blowing away a huge chunk of the competition. But the mysterious student from before blocks the blast with a thorn shield, catching Ryo's eye. This kid clearly has a history with the savior. A flashback shows Ryo acting like a total scumbag, and the student screaming that he is not a real savior at all. Back in the present, he's just glad his thorn defense managed to hold up against that initial onslaught. Ryo changes his tune, deciding this special kid deserves his full condescending attention. The rest of the competition can only watch in shock, realizing there's no way to even get close to him. Annoyed by the defiance, Ryo powers up a much more serious attack in his hand, and his wind blade slices through the air, shredding the thorn shield and drawing blood. The mysterious student grits his teeth, barely holding on against the overwhelming power. Ichiduki sees this unfold, realizing Ryo is carelessly catching other students in his attack zone. Just then, a pink-haired girl steps up, calling Ryo out for going way too hard on a bunch of students. He completely blows her off, telling her not to lecture him. So she retaliates with her own massive fire spell, trying to show him what a real hero does. Ichiduki just watches from the sidelines, calling her flashy fireball a useless circus trick. He's proven right a second later as Ryo's wind attack smacks her out of the air. The savior stands over her defeated body without a shred of remorse. This blatant abuse of power triggers a memory in Ichiduki of the girl in the hospital, and fueled by that rage, he finally makes his move, launching himself directly at Ryo. Ichiduki closes the distance in a flash, his entire body radiating raw power. Ryo, meanwhile, is busy monologuing over the girl he just beat about being a natural winner. The pink-haired student can only watch from the ground, completely out of the fight for now. Ichiduki instantly combines his new skills, summoning a thorny vine from his arm. This sudden power-up completely catches Ryo off guard, as Ichiduki unleashes a smoke screen to obscure his movements, engulfing the arrogant savior in a massive cloud of dark magic. Ryo stands there confused, wondering what kind of cheap trick this is. Before he can react, the thorny vine whips out of the smoke and smacks him right across the chest. The hit is so solid, it actually draws blood, stunning the so-called hero. Ichiduki just points coldly, confirming that he landed a hit. From the ground, the pink-haired girl is in awe that he has already mastered a skill he just copied. She can only wonder how much stronger our protagonist is going to get. Ryo, however, is absolutely losing his mind over getting hit in the face. He completely snaps, screaming that Itoki is not leaving this place alive. In his rage, he activates a summoning skill, opening a dark vortex in the sky. A massive electrified tiger-like creature begins to emerge from the portal, which Ryo proudly introduces as his mythical beast Fuma. Itoki immediately recognizes that this summon is on a whole other level of power. Elsewhere on the battlefield, another student is getting wrecked by a giant griffin-like beast, and in another corner, another student is monologuing about his rare summoning skill, which he claims is in the top 0.001% of all abilities. His three-eyed tiger beast roars, ready to absolutely demolish its opponent. The other student quickly activates Iron Transformation to try and tank the hit, but the attack plows right through him, sending him flying and drawing blood. He cannot believe the insane power difference between their summons. The blonde summoner just casually strolls up to his defeated opponent and smugly informs him that the next attack will be his last. His beast looms over the poor guy, ready to finish the job for good. Seeing this, the pink-haired girl starts panicking, screaming for Itoki to run away from Ryo's summon. Even the mysterious thorn user knows they are all about to be wiped out at this rate. But Itoki's eyes just glow as the world around him seems to glitch out, and we flash back to him in a much calmer setting. A man in a suit is advising him on the application of the bind skill. This memory is from 3 weeks before the exam, with Itoki looking pretty confused. The man explains that instead of just adding skills together, it is possible to multiply them. This is a total light bulb moment for our protagonist, who had never considered such a thing. The concept is simple. Instead of 10 plus 10, think 10 times 10. If he can pull it off, he can create a spell far more powerful than just combining 2 skills. Still in the flashback, Itoki realizes this multiplication concept is the key to getting way stronger. And even though his advisor says he won't need a technique this advanced for the exam, our protagonist is all in, completely fired up, determined to master this new power before the big day. The first step, according to his mentor, is to read the books for 2 different skills at the same time and then mentally forge them into a brand new ability from scratch. Itoki closes his eyes, focusing on the very idea of creating something new, trying to combine gravity manipulation with the thorn user, his body glowing with power. But it's a lot harder than it sounds, even with the 2 skill books right in front of him. He visualizes the 2 powers intertwining, gravity and thorns becoming one, but absolutely nothing happens, making him throw his hands up in total frustration. His mentor calmly explains that what he's attempting is a superhuman feat, because creating a new spell from scratch is basically entering the realm of the gods. We then flash forward to the day of the exam, with that same man watching things unfold on a monitor.
Back in the past, Ikiduki had been training for 3 weeks straight with 0 results, and was starting to worry that Ryo would crush both him and Momo if he could not figure it out. That is when he remembers he copied Momo's skill during the fight earlier, the same fireball he had arrogantly dismissed as a useless circus trick. He flashes back to Ryo swatting her out of the sky like she was nothing, and in the present, Ikiduki clenches his fist, admitting he was wrong. Momo's skill is strong. He finally gets it. Because her fireball is so simple, it is actually incredibly versatile. Suddenly, Ikiduki feels a surge of heat in his chest, and a new idea clicks into place. He visualizes the 2 skills in his mind, finally understanding how to make them work together. With a new sense of confidence, he decides to go all in on this crazy new technique. A massive red aura erupts around him, signaling the start of his skill fusion. His eyes glow with power as he focuses every ounce of his being into the spell. The energy continues to build, even as Ryo's mythical beast watches on. Ryo cannot believe his eyes, wondering where this kid is pulling all this power from. Momo, however, looks on with a hopeful smile, believing in him completely. Ikiduki activates the bind skill, preparing to unleash the multiplied power. And as he raises his hand, the ground itself begins to break apart, levitating into the air. He has successfully combined gravity manipulation with Momo's fireball, creating a brand new spell he calls Meteor Shower Limit Break. Ryo just stares up at the sky, completely baffled by the rain of flaming rocks. He panics and screams at his beast Fuma to just blow the entire attack away. So the tiger beast unleashes a massive energy beam to intercept the meteors. The 2 attacks collide in a spectacular explosion of light and energy, but Ikiduki's meteors easily punch right through the beam, raining down and causing a massive explosion right on top of Fuma. Ryo can only shield his face, completely unable to accept what is happening. And amidst the fiery chaos, Ikiduki just stands there, having completely overpowered the mythical beast.
Meanwhile, Ikuduki's mentor watches the exam unfold on a monitor, noting how long it is taking. He is completely stunned when he sees the massive crater Ikuduki's attack left on the battlefield. Back on the ground, Momo gets to her feet, injured but clearly impressed with what just happened. Ryo and his mythical beast are both down for the count, completely overwhelmed by the meteor shower. Ikuduki smirks, telling Ryo this is the true potential of the loser skill he mocked earlier. Hearing him defend her, Momo is completely moved, her eyes welling up with tears. Then Ikuduki lays into him, saying Ryo is not actually strong, he just relies on a powerful skill, calling him out for being born with a silver spoon, saying Ryo never earned any of his power. Ryo's mind goes blank with rage, refusing to accept a single word. His eye glows as he internally screams claims that he is one of the chosen people, but Ikuduki just repeats his point that a strong skill does not make the user strong. Our protagonist calmly explains that there is no such thing as chosen or unchosen people. This completely breaks Ryo, who calls Ikuduki an idiot before flashing back to his childhood. The scene shifts to a 6-year-old Ryo enjoying a lavish steak dinner, looking like a little prince. He's dining with his incredibly wealthy and powerful-looking parents in a massive mansion. His mother tells him he's a special person who can have anything he wants, all because they are S-rank sorcerers. His father adds that if he desires something, he should just take it since everyone else is trash. Back in his head, Ryo admits this chosen one mentality was drilled into him from birth, and even a memory shows him stepping on another kid to take his spot, a bully in the making. His parents' toxic words echo through his mind, reinforcing that he can do anything because everyone else is beneath him. This chosen one mentality started early, with him literally looking down on other kids at the playground, and once he awakened his powers, he had a massive mythical beast to back up his ego, which of course made him an instant celebrity among his classmates. Because awakening a 1 in a million skill basically confirmed he was born special. He even commanded his beast, Fuma, to take a posture of surrender to him just to prove his absolute dominance over a creature of immense power. And having a monster that huge at his beck and call was the ultimate power trip, reinforcing his belief that there was absolutely nothing he could not obtain.
Meanwhile, that other blonde summoner is busy taunting the student he just flattened, and he pulls out a glowing potion, adding money to his list of unfair advantages. The remaining students can only watch, trying to figure out who this new powerhouse is. As he chugs the entire potion right in front of his defeated opponent, he then tosses the bottle, explaining it is a super rare item you cannot just buy off the street. And with a psychotic smile, he reveals its first effect is a full recovery, but the second effect is that it doubles his magic power. The guy on the ground is stunned, realizing it is a top-tier enhancement item. The summoner just gloats that it is something a nobody could never afford. And since his magic is doubled, his beast, Fuma's strength, doubles right along with it. His opponent can only stare in absolute horror, completely outmatched. The blonde sadistically asks if he has any fight left in him, and Ryo, absolutely juiced from his potion, gets a psychotic grin and declares the fight is over. And Momo can only watch in horror as the now double-powered combatant targets Ikiduki. He orders his beast, Fuma, to slice Ikiduki into pieces until there is nothing left.
But in a shocking twist, Fuma just stands there, completely ignoring the command. Ikiduki watches this unfold, realizing something has just shifted in his favor. Ryo immediately starts losing his cool, screaming at his summon for not listening, even throwing a kick while calling Fuma his dog and demanding obedience in a total meltdown. Unfortunately for him, the mythical beast turns and roars right back in his face. Ryo is completely stunned, unable to understand how his own skill could possibly defy him. It turns out Ikiduki has a glowing skill book floating over his hand, revealing he copied the summon skill. The rich kid can only stare in disbelief as the pieces start clicking together, because there's only one Fuma in the world, but now there are two masters who can control it. And the rule is simple: the beast follows the one with the stronger connection, which is now Ikiduki. Ryo finally puts it together that our protagonist has a copy type skill, though he still looks smug about it. He tries to pull rank, yelling that Fuma should listen to him since they have been together for so long, but Ikiduki's thoughts reveal the difference. He actually believed in Fuma's strength. He explains that he could not connect with the beast after copying the skill until now. And just like that, Fuma has switched sides, now standing protectively in front of Ikiduki. Our protagonist points out that Ryo's little temper tantrum seems to have changed the beast's mind for good. A close-up on Fuma's glowing eye confirms it. The mythical beast has a new master. Ryo can only stare as his own mythical beast now stands protectively over Ikiduki. And our protagonist explains that Fuma left because Ryo only ever saw it as a tool. As a living being, Ikiduki says, the beast has every right to choose who it serves. This sends Ryo into a full-blown tantrum, screaming for his summon to come back. But Ikiduki just reminds him of his own boast about having double the magic power. With that power now under new management, Fuma charges up a massive energy blast and unleashes a devastating wind roar attack directly at its former master. The blast absolutely demolishes Ryo, who gets hit head-on with his own boosted power. He is sent tumbling through the air, completely overwhelmed by the attack, and lands in a heap, still muttering in disbelief as he crawls on the ground. Ikiduki walks over, his hand glowing, as he demands an apology for his sister, Momo. Ryo just glares back, completely baffled by the request, so Ikiduki uses his gravity skill to force the guy's head to the ground, repeating the demand. Ryo can only scream in humiliation as his face is shoved right into the dirt. A system window then pops up, announcing his official elimination from the exam. Momo watches the entire thing unfold, her expression a mix of shock and awe, while the other students are just as stunned, unable to process what they just witnessed.
With the fight finally over, Ikiduki suddenly collapses from complete exhaustion, and the next thing he knows, he is waking up in a bed, looking up at the ceiling. Momo is right there by his side, calling his name as he finally opens his eyes. Momo explains he has been out cold for a whole week due to magic power overuse, a steep price for that epic win. She gets all flustered, grabbing his hand and insisting she is the one who should be thanking him. With a huge blush, she gushes about how grateful she is that he protected her from Ryo. Ikiduki just looks a little taken aback by her intense and heartfelt gratitude, before he suddenly sits up remembering the exam and frantically asking what happened. Momo proudly flashes her new badge announcing that she passed the exam safely. He gives her a genuine smile, clearly relieved and happy that she made it through. His mood immediately darkens though, as he assumes he must have failed after collapsing. He clenches his fist in frustration, thinking he blew his chance to change the world. Momo looks at him completely baffled, wondering why he's talking like he wasn't part of the victory. Then she breaks the good news, of course he passed the exam too. The scene then shifts to a massive, official-looking building for the sorcerer inauguration ceremony. Ikiduki, now in his new uniform, thinks to himself that just passing is not good enough. His real goal was to take the #1 spot in the entire exam. Other students are already whispering about him, calling him the savior who took down Ryo. He internally confirms that by defeating one of the 7 saviors, he's made people start to distrust them. Ikiduki hopes this proves the so-called saviors are not invincible. Just as the ceremony officially begins, an announcer calls a special guest to the stage, hyping him up as the world's strongest, who turns out to be a stern-looking guy with blue hair named Sagi Tetsu, the legendary #1. While some students are impressed by his aura, others are now skeptical, wondering if he's just another paper tiger like #7. Sagi immediately silences the room with a massive display of ice and lightning magic, and in a split second, the entire venue begins to freeze over with massive ice crystals, a show of power so immense that even Ikiduki is visibly impressed. Sagi begins his speech saying the weakest ones talk the most, and that enemies are just waiting for them to fail. He warns the new recruits that their powerful magic is nothing more than bait for monsters in the real world. The only way to survive, he tells them, is to become strong, because their new lives demand it. He finishes by declaring that a certified sorcerer who isn't strong is a complete joke, leaving the students stunned. After that incredibly intense ceremony, the scene shifts to a much calmer setting, where a pink-haired girl is completely freaking out having just met her idol, #1. She explains to a confused Ikiduki that Sagi is her role model, before launching into a story from her childhood. It turns out, when she was little, she fell into a deep hole and was trapped all alone, and to make matters worse, she was cornered by 2 terrifying wolf-like monsters. One of the beasts lunges right at her, ready to tear her apart, and the poor kid can only scream in absolute terror, thinking it is all over. But as she peeks through her fingers, she realizes the attack never came, because the monster was flash frozen into a giant ice sculpture right in front of her. Her savior was none other than a younger Sagi Tetsu, who had dealt with the threat instantly. He then told her that if she becomes strong, she will never have to cry again. Back in the present, she declares that that was the moment she decided to become a sorcerer who could save people, just like him. Ikiduki just listens to her heartfelt story with a small, understanding smile. After her story, the pink-haired girl turns the question back on Ikiduki, asking why he became a sorcerer, and our protagonist drops a bombshell of an answer.
answer, to stop the end of the world. She immediately connects this to his earlier claim that the 7 saviors cannot save anyone. And in a wild guess, she wonders if maybe, just maybe, Ikiduki came from the future, though she quickly laughs it off, saying it's just a joke and that he's probably just strong because of his skill. Ikiduki, however, knows she hit the nail on the head, remembering he was supposed to die when the world first ended. He accidentally says this out loud, which totally freaks her out until he tries to backtrack. But then he gets serious, asking her to listen to him without laughing. The look on his face is so intense that she realizes he's dead serious, asking if the world is really going to be destroyed. With a grim expression, Ikiduki simply confirms that it is. She presses further, asking if he's actually seen it, and if even the legendary number 1 is powerless to stop it. A grim flashback shows the hellscape he remembers, with powerful sorcerers lying defeated. Ikiduki explains that it's impossible to face that future alone, which is why he needs comrades. He looks directly at her, emphasizing the word comrades. He then tells her she's the first person he's ever told, officially making her his first ally. She's completely flustered, but incredibly happy to be trusted with such a huge secret. She then asks a pretty smart question. Why not just tell everyone about the regression to get more believers? Ikiduki explains that regression magic is an ancient and obscure magic that almost no one knows about. And more importantly, if the wrong people found out, his sister Momo could become a target. Understanding the stakes, she gets a determined look and asks what their plan is from here on out. Ikiduki clenches his fist, absolutely set on getting strong enough to achieve his goal, believing that if he keeps gathering comrades, they can actually change the future. Sometime later, their new life as certified sorcerers officially begins. And as it turns out, Ikiduki and his new pink-haired ally have been assigned to the same team. Their first mission takes them to the edge of a massive crater, a dungeon known as a hole. A couple of senior sorcerers are leading the group, asking if it is their first time doing this for real. Ikiduki admits to himself that while he has done virtual dungeons, this is his first time against actual monsters. The seniors try to calm their nerves, promising it is just a beginner-level dungeon and to stick close. Both rookies look a little tense, but agree to the plan, ready to follow their lead. Without wasting another second, the muscular senior jumps straight down into the pit. The rest of the team follows him, descending into the darkness of the Rank C dungeon. Inside, the seniors immediately start clearing out swarms of bat-like monsters, standard procedure for training rookies, who watch and learn from the veterans first. The bandana-wearing senior notes that there are a surprisingly number of them though. He then tells the rookies to handle a few stragglers that got past, a perfect little test of their skills. Ikiduki instantly summons a thorny wine whip as his ally powers up a fire spell, and they both unleash their attacks on the incoming monsters without hesitation. This display earns them a nod of approval from the senior, who is impressed with their spirit. The other veteran advises them to take their time and get used to real combat slowly. Ikiduki, however, thinks to himself that he doesn't have time to take it slow after coming this far. Ikiduki's thorn whip and his ally's fireball make short work of the remaining monsters, and his new friend is cheering him on, while the seniors give a nod of approval, looking pretty impressed. As the monsters fall, Ikiduki feels their magic flow into him, a classic level up mechanic, but he is already frustrated, realizing these rank C mobs give practically 0 experience points. Just then, the dungeon starts to collapse, forcing them to climb back to the surface, and once they are out, the hole seals itself shut as his partner celebrates their first successful mission. The senior asks how she feels, and she's just thrilled to have made it through safely. Ikiduki, however, immediately asks if they can tackle a higher level dungeon next, a sudden request that clearly catches his new ally completely off guard. The muscular senior admits Ikiduki's skills are impressive, but there's a catch. He warns that raw power means nothing without real-world experience against tougher enemies. Ikiduki just quietly accepts the lecture, though he is obviously not satisfied with taking things slow. Later, the two rookies are grabbing a bite to eat after a long day of grinding, and Ikiduki chews on a burger, admitting to himself that the seniors have a point. A dark thought crosses his mind as he remembers the absolute horrors from the future, knowing his current level is a joke against them. His friend explains that the sorcerer world is a strict hierarchy, where missions are assigned by rank, and she can tell he's still getting impatient, even though he understands the rules. He then drops the timeline on her, 4 years and 10 months until the apocalypse, and he has a to-do list. His first priority, he declares, is to gather more trustworthy allies, just like her. His new ally just listens while munching on her food, taking it all in. Ikikiduki lays out his second objective. He needs to gain status and become a leader people will actually follow. Third, he has to copy as many useful skills as he can, like defensive magic to protect everyone. He also needs healing abilities, planning to build a whole arsenal of copied powers for the apocalypse. She looks a little stunned by the sheer scale of his plan, asking what his fourth goal is. His final objective, he says, is to get strong enough to beat the threat that even number 1 could not handle. Ikikiduki slams his fist down in frustration, realizing that grinding low-ranked dungeons will never get him there in time. His friend tries to offer a suggestion, seeing how desperate he's getting. She mentions a rumor that becoming one of the 7 saviors lets you skip ranks and go straight to SS class. This immediately gets his attention, though she admits she has no clue how someone would even do that. A new plan forms in his mind. If a savior can recommend someone, maybe he can get one of them on his side. Meanwhile, the 7 saviors themselves are holding a meeting at a ridiculously long table. Number 5, Ashia Hakaru, kicks things off by asking what is on the agenda. Number 2, Juman Sieru, reveals the topic of discussion is none other than the rookie Ikikiduki. Number 4, Kayuki Ramu, scoffs that he's just a kid who beat up Ryo. Juman explains that he used his thorn skill, but then displayed a completely different ability later. This gets number 3, Igihanka, to wonder if he actually possesses multiple skills, while number 6, Suzaki Ari, couldn't care less. Juman confirms that would be impossible for a normal person. The group then turns to the head of the table, asking number 1, Sagi Tetsu, for his opinion. Sagi doesn't answer with words. He just stands up and summons 2 glowing ice daggers ready for action. But before the meeting can escalate, Ikikiduki himself appears in the doorway, crashing the party. Every single one of the saviors is completely blindsided by the rookie's sudden appearance. Sagi, still holding his ice daggers, just glares at the kid with an unreadable expression and immediately demands to know how he got past their electronic lock. Ikikiduki simply reveals a glowing magic circle on his hand, implying he used yet another skill to get in. The other saviors realize he is now using a lightning ability, wondering what he could possibly want. Our protagonist looks them dead in the eye and announces he has come to ask for a favor. Number 2, Juman, seems to be the only one who's more intrigued than annoyed. Ikikiduki then makes his absolutely insane request. He wants them to let him join the 7 saviors. Number 4, Kayuki, completely loses it, shocked by the sheer nerve of this rookie. Juman calmly asks Histi he deserves a spot just because he happened to defeat the last guy. Number 5 then calls him out, reminding him he is the one who claimed the saviors could not save anyone. Ikiduki explains that becoming a savior is the fastest way to skip ranks and challenge high-level dungeons. Juman acknowledges that the rank skipping system for saviors is in fact a real thing, but points out that even Sagi took half a year to reach S rank, while Ikiduki has been licensed for a few days. Ikiduki clenches his fist, insisting that he does not have time and needs to get stronger fast. This just pisses Kalki off, who gets in Ikiduki's face for being so arrogant after one little win. He lectures him that sorcerers are promoted over time by grinding dungeons, not by asking for handouts. Kalki then powers up his fist to beat some sense into him, but Juman tells him to wait. Juman recalls that Ikiduki also tamed Ryo's divine beast, theorizing that he might be able to copy other people's skills. Juman's theory hits a little too close to home, and Ikiduki cannot quite hide a surprise, which sends Kalki into a rage, refusing to believe a skill copying ability could even exist, while the other saviors realize it is probably not a great idea to show off their power powers in front of this kid, so Jumon politely tells him to get lost before he can swipe any of their top-tier skills. And Ikiduki realizes his plan to just copy a savior's power on the spot has officially failed, forcing him to switch gears and unleash what he calls his final strategy, which involves him powering up like a Super Saiyan, his hair turning blue as lightning crackles around him, a sudden burst of magical energy that catches every single savior completely off guard, leaving Ikiduki looking like a totally different person with this new intense aura, and Kalki, assuming a fight is about to break out, immediately rushes to intercept him. But instead of throwing a punch, Ikiduki pulls a full 180 and gives a deep, respectful bow, spouting some nonsense about how their scolding has inspired him to train harder, even thanking Kalki for the lecture, which leaves the big guy utterly speechless. And with that, Ikiduki turns and walks away with a smug little strut, knowing he played his cards perfectly because Kalki took the bait and is following him out, because it turns out Kalki's one and only weakness is a soft spot for polite, hard-working juniors, a personality Ikiduki admits is not really his style. But hey, you do what you have to do. And just as planned, Kalki stops him, asking why he is so desperate for power. So Ikiduki puts on his most serious face, ready to spin a sob story, explaining his older sister has collapsed and is currently lying in a hospital bed. Ikiduki spins a tale about wanting to be a sorcerer his sick sister can be proud of, and Kalki, a sucker for family drama, is literally crying. Our protagonist even manages to squeeze out a few crocodile tears to really seal the performance. The big guy is so moved, he grabs Ikiduki's shoulders, promising to personally give him special training. This training takes them to a massive arena where Kayuki reveals his signature skill is creating barriers. Of course, Ito-Itki already knew this, having researched all the saviors specifically to copy Kayuki's defensive power. He knows a top-tier barrier is exactly what he needs to protect people when the apocalypse hits. Kayuki gets into a stance, ready to demonstrate his ability in a skill versus barrier test. He summons a giant glowing monolith from the ground, calling it the Wall of Resolve. The challenge is simple enough. He just tells Ito-Itki to try and attack it. Ito-Itki activates his Iron Form skill, winding up for a serious punch. He smashes his fist right into the wall with everything he's got, and is immediately shocked by the result of his own attack. A massive recoil sends him flying backward through the air, completely caught off guard. Kayuki explains the wall reflects all damage back to the attacker, meaning you have to endure the pain to break it. Ito-Itki realizes it's a brutal test of attrition. The prize, however, is worth it. If he breaks it, Kayuki will take him on S-rank dungeon raids. Faced with a seemingly impossible task, Ito-Itki decides to pull out another ace, his bind skill. He fuses his divine beast Fuma with a fireball spell, summoning a massive roaring flame tiger. Kayuki is absolutely floored, having no idea what kind of insane skill he's witnessing. He realizes Ito-Itki is fusing two separate abilities as the flame tiger charges up a massive attack. The flame tiger unleashes a massive beam, completely vaporizing the Wall of Resolve, leaving Kayuki absolutely stunned that his ultimate defense was shattered in a single blow. Ito-Itki braces himself for the massive recoil damage he was warned about, but then realizes he's completely unharmed. It turns out the wall's reflection only works if you don't one-shot it. It was a bluff to stop people from going all out. Thoroughly impressed, Kayuki admits the rookie has officially earned his respect. Ito-Itki can barely contain his excitement, knowing his master plan is falling perfectly into place. Kayuki then activates a magic circle, ready to officially pass on his skill, and our protagonist's eyes light up as the copy process begins. He confirms the transfer was a success, proudly announcing he has copied Absolute Barrier. Kayuki is happy to share, smugly adding that a copy could never surpass the original, of course. But then he gets serious, asking why Ito-Itki said the saviors couldn't save the world, and if he distrusts the Ministry of Magic. A dark memory flashes through Kayuki's mind, him surrounded by fallen comrades. Ito-Itki bluntly admits that he cannot trust them either, which clearly surprises the senior. He explains that something is off with the Ministry, and there might even be a traitor among them. Just as he's making this accusation, the scene takes a dark turn. Kayuki suddenly coughs up a massive amount of blood, completely out of nowhere. Ito-Itki is horrified, having no idea what's causing his sudden collapse. At that exact moment, the head of the Ministry of Magic is also shown covered in blood, and we learn that this is the very man who used his future sight to prophesize the world's end. It turns out the head of the ministry is the one who prophesied the end of the world, and he's also the guy who personally designated the 7 saviors to stop it, which makes it a little awkward when he's revealed to be the one who just assassinated Kaoki. Itoitki is in absolute shock, having just watched his new mentor get taken down.
Kaoki lies on the floor completely paralyzed and unable to defend himself. The head raises his bloody sword to finish the job right in front of the rookie, but Ikiduki lacks instantly, throwing up his newly copied absolute barrier to block the attack. The blade slammed into the shield, barely managing to save Kaoki from certain death. Ikiduki immediately counterattacks with his thorn skill, demanding to know why the head is a traitor, and the old man calmly reveals his own ability, Future Sight. He effortlessly dodges every single one of Ikiduki's attacks, seeing them before they even happen. Our protagonist is floored, realizing he is up against an opponent who can literally read the future. The head mocks him, saying his attacks are useless, but then notices something strange. Ikiduki's movements are somehow unpredictable even for his precognition. He realizes Ikiduki is not moving like a human, which is throwing off his predictions. This gives Ikiduki a sliver of hope, thinking he has found a weakness in the perfect defense. But before he can capitalize on it, the head's body begins to glitch and fade away. It was just a magical projection the whole time, a perfect remote assassination. The scene then cuts to the Ministry of Magic's morgue, with Ikiduki standing over Kaoki's body. He looks down in defeat, apologizing he was not strong enough to save him. Ikiduki starts putting the pieces together, wondering about a huge plot hole in the official story, like how the great Archmage could prophesy the apocalypse with his future sight, but somehow missed the tiny detail that his hand-picked saviors would get completely wiped out. A chilling thought crosses his mind. What if the old man saw their defeat coming all along, and knowingly sent them on a suicide mission with a deliberately false prophecy? The only question is why, and Ikiduki needs to find out before it is too late. Luckily, he has a live tracker pinging the Archmage's real location, thanks to a sticky bullet skill he managed to tag him with during their fight. The old man didn't even notice the little magic GPS stuck to his robes, which means Ikiduki can now follow the signals straight to a secret hideout. He is dead set on confronting the traitor and getting some real answers. The tracker leads him to some kind of high security off-the-books facility, and when he cautiously peeks inside one of the rooms, he finds a massive chamber filled with rows of what look like cryopods. Before he can process what he's seeing, the Archmage himself appears right behind him and immediately goes for a killing blow, forcing Ikiduki to dive out of the way. Thinking on his feet, our protagonist grabs a random pipe and uses his iron body skill to forge a makeshift sword just in time to block the Archmage's next deadly swing. The old man seems genuinely surprised that the kid can actually hold his ground, as the two of them are now locked in a full-blown sword fight. Ikiduki taunts the old man, asking if he is wondering why his predictions are suddenly off, revealing he copied the future sight skill during their last fight, and now their powers are interfering with each other. The Archmage realizes this means neither of them can see the future properly at the moment, which levels the playing field for a good old-fashioned brawl between a sword and a pipe. Ikiduki presses him for answers, demanding to know what he really saw with his precognition. Putting all his strength into holding the Archmage at bay, he calls out the massive plot hole. How could he foresee the apocalypse, but not the Savior's defeat? He accuses the Archmage of knowing that hell was coming for everyone, and worse, that he deliberately sent them all to their doom. Fueled by pure rage, Ikiduki swears he will never forgive him for the betrayal. He channels that anger into a massive overhead swing, bringing the pipe down with full force, and the Archmage starts coughing up something dark from the impact. But instead of blood, a wave of mud explodes from the old man's body, leaving Ikiduki completely stunned, realizing he is not fighting a real person at all. Just then, a new voice confirms his suspicion from behind him. A man in a lab coat explains that the great Archmage is in fact already dead and has been for some time. Ikiduki recognizes the newcomer as number 5, Ashia, and demands to know what he's doing there. Asha just smirks, calling our protagonist a little slow on the uptake.
before revealing his own creepy skill, Mud Puppet, which lets him control corpses at will. Asha gloats that the great archmage everyone trusted has been his personal puppet the entire time. Ikiduki is completely floored, struggling to believe what he is hearing. This horrible realization dawns on him. If the archmage was a puppet, then the prophecy was a total lie. Asha just smiles, casually confirming he forced the archmage to announce the fake doomsday, all in the name of a truly insane goal, to destroy the world more effectively. Ikiduki is absolutely livid, finally understanding the true depth of this betrayal. The math scientist explains that the apocalypse was coming no matter what, so there was no point in hiding it, which is why he staged the prophecy and created the 7 saviors to give everyone a false sense of security. By giving the public heroes to believe in, he made them all feel safe and relieved. And with everyone's guard down, they became easy targets for the real disaster. This whole elaborate scheme was just to ensure he could destroy the world more reliably, a concept Ikiduki cannot even begin to wrap his head around. Asha declares that the end of the world is a non-negotiable because it is what they want. Before Ikiduki can even ask who they are, the villain continues his monologue, spelling out that he killed the real archmage just to use his corpse to lie to the entire world. The sheer scale of this conspiracy sends a chill down Ikiduki's spine as he looks around the lab, realizing he is standing in the den of a complete madman. It all clicks into place. Asha did not just predict the apocalypse, he orchestrated it from the very beginning. To top it all off, he smugly reveals he even joined the Saviors as number 5 for easier access. But then he gets serious, pointing out that Ikiduki somehow knowing the Saviors were a sham from the start is becoming a real problem for him. And that's when our protagonist realizes he's in some serious trouble. Without warning, mud erupts from the ground around them as Asha activates his mud puppet skill on a much larger scale, reanimating a whole army of dead mages he's been collecting over the years. Ikiduki is absolutely done with this guy's games, his fist glowing with power, and he smashes through the first puppet while demanding to know why Asha wants to destroy the world. Asha just smirks, saying there's no point in explaining since Ikiduki is about to die anyway. Seeing the horde closing in, Ikiduki knows he has to act fast. Activating his bind skill with a glowing magic circle on his hand, he unleashes a gravity fire combo, incinerating one of the puppets instantly, which actually impresses the mad scientist, who is fascinated by Ikiduki's ability to combine skills. Asha gets a genuinely creepy look in his eye, deciding he needs to study Ikiduki's body, and pulls out a syringe, announcing he will be adding our protagonist to his collection. But instead of attacking, he injects the mysterious substance into his own neck, using his skill to create an enhanced mud form that bulks him up like a super soldier. Ikiduki is stunned as Asha explains his mud does not just control corpses, it can also enhance the living. The newly buffed villain throws a punch with incredible force, which Ikiduki barely manages to block. He is struggling under the pressure, knowing his magic is running low, but seeing no other option. Asha just mocks him from above, asking if this is really the best he can do. Backed into a corner, Ikiduki pulls out his trump card, combining Future Sight and Absolute Barrier. And the mad scientist actually looks impressed for a second, realizing our protagonist has created an auto defense system using the skills he just copied. The barrier holds strong, sending the buffed up villain flying backward from his own attack. Asya just gets back up, mocking him that his mana will not last forever against this kind of power. And he's not wrong. The shield is already starting to crack under the pressure. But Ikiduki is not just defending, adding his Thorn user skill into the mix for a counterattack that actually manages to land a hit, surprising Asha with a third simultaneous skill. Ikiduki is clearly running on fumes, but he's not backing down an inch. Asha is genuinely amazed, admitting predicting, defending, and attacking all at once is some next level talent. Ikiduki uses the opening to demand the one answer he needs: why destroy the world? Surprisingly, Asha decides to spill the beans, explaining the apocalypse is just monsters from another dimension coming to eat. It turns out these interdimensional horrors have been pumping magic into the human world on purpose, and the horrifying realization starts to dawn on Ikiduki. Asha confirms it with a smug grin. They gave humans magic to terraform the planet for them. Once the world is saturated with magic, the monsters can cross over and feast on the now delicious humans. Humanity was never given a gift. They were just being fattened up like cattle. This villain then has the nerve to ask Ikiduki if he's okay with that. Ikiduki fires back, pointing out that Asha is human too, so he's on the menu with everyone else.
But Asha just laughs, his body glowing with dark energy, and asks when he ever said he was human. Ikiduki is completely stunned, trying to wrap his head around Asha's impossible claim, and before he can process it, the scientist's body starts to violently contort with dark energy as monstrous, fiery wings erupt from his back. His face literally splits open into a horrifying, toothy maw as his human disguise shatters. In just a few seconds, he transforms into a hulking, demonic beast. Our protagonist can only stare in disbelief, his mind completely failing to catch up with reality. Suddenly, a traumatic memory flashes through his mind. The day the 7 saviors were annihilated, he recognizes the monster towering over him from that very same day, remembering his teammates shoving him out of the way, telling him to be the decoy, right before a massive energy beam vaporized her and another so-called hero. He remembers screaming, totally powerless, as his friends were sacrificed. Another savior had coldly justified it, saying he was more valuable than some woman. He can still hear someone yelling for her to hang on, even as she faced her end. That woman had used her last breath to tell Ikiduki to run from the grotesque human-faced creature. And back in the present, the horrifying truth clicks. Asha is that monster. The creature gloats that the chosen ones like him will survive by devouring the rest of humanity. The weight of it all crushes Ikiduki, realizing the man behind the apocalypse also killed his friends. He looks up, his face a mask of pure, unfiltered rage and despair. Monster Asha mockingly congratulates him for making it this far, then says goodbye, unleashing a massive energy blast straight at our protagonist to end it once and for all. Ikiduki can only stare up in horror as the energy blast comes right for him, realizing he is completely out of magic and cannot even move his body. Suddenly, a massive ancient magic circle appears in the sky above the lab, and Ikiduki finds himself falling through a vortex of red energy. Refusing to die like this, he desperately tries to activate Absolute Barrier one last time, a seal glowing on his hand, but nothing happens. He is completely tapped out of mana. The blast makes impact and everything just explodes in a flash of red light. We flash back to several days ago, where a woman was asking Ikiduki about his true skill, and this silver-haired lady seems to know a whole lot more about his powers than he does. She explains that his copycat ability is just a parlor trick compared to his real innate power. Ikiduki is understandably confused, having no idea what she is talking about. The thought that he might have a unique magic all his own completely blows his mind. When he asks how to use it, she starts explaining the activation requirement, which turns out to be activating 7 different skills at the exact same time. Our protagonist is justifiably shocked by that absolutely insane condition. She clarifies that every skill he's copied is actually a key to unlocking his true potential, and using 7 skills at once for the very first time is what will trigger it, finally opening his personal crest and unleashing his real power. Ikiduki starts sweating because 7 is a pretty intimidating number, admitting to her that the most he's ever managed to combine is 2. The silver-haired woman explains he could probably manage 3 skills in a real fight, but trying to use all 7 at once would instantly drain his mana to 0. She calmly lays out the final crucial detail for this ultimate power. It is a one-shot wonder that can only be activated when he is at full capacity. Back in the present, Ikiduki is about to be annihilated, desperately trying to cast Absolute Barrier, but he is completely tapped out and nothing happens. He is begging for just a sliver of magic as the beam barrels down on him, when suddenly his friend Momo tackles him out of the way at the last possible second. She shoves him to the ground, taking the brunt of the explosion herself. Ikiduki is completely floored, asking why she is even there. She holds up her phone, reminding him that he was the one who sent her the Archmage's location. He remembers sending that message as a backup plan, just in case things went sideways. Realizing how bad the situation is, he immediately yells at Momo to run, explaining he's out of magic and can't even move. But instead of running, she starts charging up a fireball of her own, and to Ikiduki's absolute horror, she fires it directly at him. Monster Ashia is just loving the drama, calling their infighting a beautiful sight. Except, the fireball is not an attack. It's a wave of pink healing energy that washes over Ikiduki. Momo reveals her skill is a healing fireball, declaring she would never abandon a comrade. Our protagonist is stunned as he feels his magic power rapidly recovering. Momo asks the million-dollar question. With his magic back, can he actually beat this thing? And Ikiduki is just stunned, asking when in the world she learned to use magic like that. She just vaguely says a lot happened, hinting at some serious off-screen development. Promising to explain later, she tells him to just focus on taking down the monster first. Monster Ashia, meanwhile, is practically drooling over finding a rare healer he can add to his puppet collection. Ikiduki thanks her, feeling his strength returning and getting ready for the real fight. This power surge reminds him of how weak and helpless he used to be, but he knows things are different now. He's no longer that magicless kid who was constantly bullied, or the little brother who always had to be saved by his sister. Now he has comrades he can actually trust standing right beside him, and more importantly, he has his own unique magic ready to be unleashed. Monster Ashia just scoffs from above, calling his resolve completely useless. He brags that his body has magic immunity and super regeneration, so he can't be hurt unless it's a one-shot kill. The monster taunts him, saying he knows all of Ikiduki's skills and none of them are strong enough to do the job. And that's Ikiduki's cue to prove him wrong, unleashing a blinding flash of power. He begins activating his skills, starting with gravity manipulation, thorn user, and fireball. Then stacks on electronic hacking, phantom beast form, absolute barrier, and even mud puppet. Monster Ashia is still screaming that it's all pointless, completely oblivious to the 7 skill requirement. A massive, chaotic vortex of energy erupts as Ikiduki finally unlocks his true power. Monster Ashia is completely floored, unable to process how his ultimate attack was just blocked, and he recognizes the glowing symbol on Ikiduki's hand as a black crest, ancient, impossible magic. Fueled by this new power, Ikiduki declares he's going to end this right here and save the world. He unleashes his very first unique skill, a devastating blast of dark energy called Vanta Black. This attack tears through the lab, leaving Momo to watch the chaotic aftermath from a distance. When the smoke clears, Ashia is back in his human form, looking completely shattered by the hit. He can only mutter, "Impossible," before collapsing to the ground, totally defeated. Ikiduki gives a tired but victorious smile, thanking Momo for giving him the opening he needed. But his celebration is cut short as the recoil from his new power slams into his body. He drops to his knees in agony, with a panicked Momo rushing to his side. Ikiduki stares at the crest on his hand, realizing this ancient magic comes with a serious physical price. He remembers that this kind of power is supposed to be extinct, only wielded by legends like the Great Archmage, or by those who recited an ancient grimoire, which he knows puts a massive strain on the user's body. The silver-haired woman's words come rushing back, how his true skill was far more powerful than he knew. It finally clicks that this is the unique magic she was talking about, a power that is truly his. Back in the present, Momo runs over to check on him, and he manages to say he is okay. Despite the pain, Ikiduki clenches his fist, now more determined than ever to master this power. Meanwhile, on the streets of Japan, citizens are staring at their phones in utter disbelief. A news alert is spreading like wildfire, announcing that the Great Archmage has vanished without a trace. The world is thrown into chaos as it is revealed that number 4, Ikiduki, and the Archmage are all missing. Meanwhile, a very much human Ashia is chained to a chair in an interrogation room where he is being grilled as the prime suspect in the whole incident by none other than number 3, the head of police, Igade Hehanka. She is clearly running out of patience, asking if he feels like talking yet, but Ashia just keeps his mouth shut with a smug little smile. Heka lays out the damning evidence, connecting him to both the Archmage's and Ikiduki's disappearances, and demands to know why he was found passed out at the scene of the crime. His only response is a cryptic "who knows," which is the absolute wrong thing to say to her. Realizing words will not work, Heka decides it is time for a more direct approach, summoning a whole collection of magical instruments to get the truth out of
of him. As the weapons strike home, Heka seems thrilled to finally unleash her abilities, getting a little too excited about where to start the interrogation. Even in agony, Ashia just compliments her technique, calling it not bad. Elsewhere, we find another character standing over a body in a morgue. It is the other savior from Ikizuki's flashback, telling his fallen comrade he has avenged her. He's speaking to Kaio, the woman who was vaporized, saving Ikizuki's life. Suddenly, a glowing grimoire materializes right in front of him, the same one he recognizes as the source of the mud puppet skill he copied from Ashia. This book reveals that the skill's first function is controlling corpses, explaining how Ashia manipulated the Archmage, and its second, more mysterious function is something called Soul Doll. The grimoire explains that Soul Doll can revive the soul of someone killed by Mud Puppet, but it is one-time use only, which means he has a shot at bringing back Kyoke since she was killed by the puppeted Archmage. He's worried about what happens if he fails, but knows he has to take the chance, because even the smallest possibility of saving her is worth the risk. With his mind made up, he activates Soul Doll, pouring golden energy onto Kyoki's body, and from her corpse, a tiny chibi version of Kyoke materializes in a poof of light. As her original body on the slab completely disintegrates into dust, this savior just stares, probably not expecting this particular outcome. Chibi Kyoke blinks, looking around with total confusion, wondering where in the world she is and what just happened. She looks up at a now giant Ikizuki, asking if it is really him, and why she is suddenly so tiny. Overjoyed, Ikizuki scoops her up into a massive hug, while she just yells at him to let her go. Sometime later, the gang is chilling at a park, where Momo is absolutely ecstatic about their new friend, holding up the tiny Kyoke like a trophy and gushing over how cute she is. Kyoke, now perched on Momo's head, yells at her to stop touching her, reminding her she is still the senior here. Still, she cannot help but reflect on the whole insane situation, thinking about how these two rookies were hiding such massive secrets from everyone. With Ashia and the Archmage's betrayal, she realizes the world was rotting from the inside all along. Ikizuki gets serious, explaining that to stop the end of the world, they will need to defeat thousands of Ashia-level monsters, and he suspects there are plenty of other factions out there with the exact same apocalyptic goal. With Kyoke perched on her head, Momo gets fired up, declaring she needs to polish her skills to be more useful. This gets Ikizuki thinking about where she even learned a healing skill like that in the first place. So Momo starts to explain the whole wild story. It turns out she ran into number 6, Siki, while getting crepes, and the two of them just hit it off. Siki actually ended up helping her train to master her fireball ability, which apparently has the soul of a phoenix hiding inside it. During their training, Siki bluntly told a confused Momo she was using her skill completely wrong, and to prove her point, she unleashed her own unique blue flame magic. Siki explains it reveals the true hidden nature of a person's abilities, showing that Momo's fireball was never an attack, but a phoenix fireball meant to negate damage and heal. Momo's reaction is of course complete and utter shock. After that, she practiced like crazy to get a handle on this new power, and eventually mastered the pink healing flames she used to save Ikizuki. Ikizuki then wonders why his own copied fireball skill doesn't have a healing version, and Kyoke chimes in from her perch, calling it a reverse skill. She explains that skills have two sides, a front and a back, that can flip after prolonged use. Just like Momo's attack became healing, Kyoke reveals her own absolute barrier has an ultra-offensive reverse side. This makes Ikizuki realize that his own unique magic must have a reverse side as well. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a massive dark vortex above a hospital as a strange vision floods into someone's mind, showing two mysterious people at the edge of the abyss. This vision shows two mysterious guys in uniform looming over his sister Miki in a hospital bed, and Ikizuki snaps back to reality, screaming her name, while Momo wonders what's wrong. He glances at the black crest on his hand, realizing what just happened, identifying the ability as Future Sight, a glimpse into a future that's about to become real. Without a second to waste, he bolts, leaving a confused Momo and Kyoke in the dust. The premonition flashes through his mind again, confirming his sister is in grave danger. He knows that if he doesn't get there in time, that future is set in stone.
Back in the vision, the two kidnappers descend from the dark vortex hovering over the hospital. The more hyper one, Roku, is practically begging for a showdown. His silver-haired partner calmly tells him to focus. They are on the clock. Their target is inside a hospital room, sleeping peacefully under the covers. The two of them slip through the window, landing silently in her room. With a soft step, the silver-haired man approaches her bed, telling the unconscious Mickey that he has come to pick her up. He scoops her into his arms and they fly off, with Roku complaining about what a boring job it was. But just as they are about to leave, the leader stops short because Ikiduki has arrived, floating in the sky to block their escape. He wastes no time activating a gravity manipulation and fireballing skill, then unleashes a devastating attack he calls Meteor Shower right at them. Roku just smirks, casually holding up a finger and telling our protagonist to hold on. Roku's single finger completely shatters Ikiduki's Meteor Shower attack into pieces, leaving our protagonist absolutely stunned that his full power assault was just casually nullified. While the kidnappers float there completely unfazed, Ikiduki loses his cool, screaming at them to give his sister back. But the leader just smirks, commenting that Ikiduki must have foreseen their arrival, and demands to know who he is. Ikiduki squares up for another round, and the leader drops a bombshell. He knows Mickey is the one who used regression magic. He then adds that he's also aware Ikiduki is the one who took down Ashiya, which prompts Ikiduki to accuse them of another doomsday cult just like Ashiya. Roku just scoffs at the comparison, calling Ashiya a pathetic loser they would never team up with. Done with the conversation, Ikiduki lunges forward, determined to get his sister back. But the leader simply says Mickey is an important key, and they are taking her. With a flick of his finger, Roku decides to escalate things dramatically, summoning a massive demonic beast from the vortex above the city. Down below, Momo and Kyoki can only watch in horror as monsters start pouring out of the portal, with Kyoki pointing out that an invasion of this scale is completely unheard of. It gets worse when they realize these are not just any monsters, but S-ranked threats or higher, and Ikiduki finally connects the dots. These two are directly linked to the end of the world. All across the city, apocalyptic creatures begin their rampage, confirming his worst fears. Meanwhile, another hero is shown desperately trying to hold the line against the overwhelming invasion. Fired up, Ikiduki warns the kidnappers he will not forgive them if they hurt his sister. But the silver-haired leader just smirks, dropping the bombshell that Miki is not his sister at all. This understandably leaves our protagonist completely stunned and confused. The leader clarifies that Miki is actually their comrade, not his family, and her true purpose is to bring about the destruction of the world. Ikiduki's brain just short-circuits, unable to process this insane revelation, while Roku just laughs his head off, finding the whole playing siblings act hilarious. Done with their games, Ikiduki tells them to stop messing around, flashing back to a fond memory of Miki helping him with his studies. Snapping back to the present, he screams that she is his sister and activates his copy skill, cycling through his entire arsenal of copied abilities to find the right one for the job. He settles on the dark magic he took from Ashiya, the mud puppet skill, and channels its power into a brand new attack he calls Extreme Black Light. A massive pillar of dark energy erupts from below, shooting straight towards Roku, appearing to completely engulf the kidnapper in a devastating blast. Down on the ground, Momo and Kyoki can only watch the explosion light up the sky, but as the smoke begins to clear, Ikiduki watches intently, waiting to see if his attack actually worked. Unfortunately for him, Roku emerges completely unscathed and is now charging right at him. Ikiduki is left in total shock, realizing his full power attack did absolutely nothing. Roku just laughs, showing off a black crest on his hand that looks suspiciously familiar, and Ikiduki realizes with horror that this guy is also a user of ancient magic. Getting way too hyped for a real fight, Roku cracks his knuckles, ready for a proper showdown. So he completely ignores his partner and lunges forward, deciding he wants to play with our protagonist. But the recoil from using Ashiya's dark magic hits Ikiduki like a truck, paralyzing him on the spot. Down below, Momo can only scream his name, terrified of the forbidden magic he just unleashed. Unable to move a muscle, Ikiduki is forced to watch as the kidnappers fly off with Miki, and the silver-haired leader just gives him a smug "see you later,"
promising they will meet again. As the dark vortex finally closes, Ikiduki succumbs to his injuries and starts falling from the sky. He plummets headfirst towards the ground, while Momo watches in absolute horror from below. The black crest on his hand begins to fade as his consciousness slips away, leaving him totally limp and unresponsive as he continues his descent. His last thoughts are his sister, calling out her name in his mind. He flashes back to a fond memory of Miki helping him study, encouraging him not to give up. But that memory suddenly twists into a nightmare, showing her with a terrifying demonic grin.
Hikiduki then jolts awake in a hospital bed, completely panicked and disoriented. He finds Momo sitting beside him, who explains what happened after he passed out. It turns out Chibi Kaioki, now apparently named Kana, used some emergency healing to save his life. His memories of the fight come rushing back, and he insists he has to save Miki, calling their claims a lie. He tries to force himself out of bed to go after them, but immediately collapses from the pain. Momo immediately shuts him down, physically holding him in bed and telling him he is in no shape to fight, and she is terrified of what will happen to his body if he ever uses that forbidden magic again. Kana then chimes in with a dose of reality, pointing out that his desperate attack did not even work on them, but Hikiduki is still panicking, insisting that at this rate his sister is going to die, which is when Kai drops a hard truth bomb. If the world ends, he cannot save his sister either. This little spirit explains that first, Hikiduki needs to actually understand the skills he is trying to use. She asks if he can even use that dark power without it completely destroying him in the process, or if he can even make it stronger, because if not, getting Miki back is just a pipe dream. That finally gets through to Hikiduki, who realizes he needs a better plan than just brute force. Seeing her chance, Momo pipes up saying she knows the perfect person to help him figure this out, none other than the woman who unlocked her Phoenix Fireball, the powerful mage Siki. The scene then cuts to what looks like a mage association meeting where Siki is reporting to some higher-ups. She's volunteering for the duty of inviting someone to the licensed mage exam, and though the blue-haired guy, Sagi, seems annoyed, the old man in charge tells him to let her do it. Sagi storms off, leaving the old man alone with his thoughts for a moment. It turns out this guy is seriously twisted, muttering about how much he despises cocky, disrespectful brats. His friendly facade completely shatters as he decides he's just going to kill this person himself, but as he walks down the hall, Sagi is already powering up, dark energy crackling around his fists, clearly sensing the old man's murderous intent and preparing for a confrontation. Back at the hospital, Momo is practically begging Siki to work her magic and analyze Hikiduki's skills too. Siki is clearly not thrilled to be bothered while she's trying to relax, but she's apparently easily bribed, agreeing to help Hikiduki in exchange for a single crepe. Momo is so grateful she tackles Siki in a massive hug, much to her surprise. Hikiduki and Kana just watch, with Hikiduki noting how close she and Momo have become. Getting straight to business, Siki activates her blue flame analysis skill on our protagonist, but something immediately goes wrong. His dark power corrupts her flame, leaving her completely shocked. She tells the others she cannot see a thing. His power is just a void of pitch black energy. The system seems to agree, labeling his skill as unknown as a sinister aura surrounds him. Realizing her usual method is useless, Siki tells Hikiduki he will have to find the answer himself, so she switches gears, unleashing a completely different ability called Green Flame. This new skill, she explains, sends the target on a little trip into their own mindscape. She tells him to go confirm the true nature of his power with his own eyes, and then completely engulfs him in a pillar of mystical green fire. This snaps us back to reality a few minutes earlier, with Siki holding Ikiruki in her green flame, and our protagonist is clearly not having a good time on this little psychic trip. Momo and Kanai can only watch nervously, hoping he figures out his powers and returns safely. But their quiet moment is shattered by a massive lightning blast that erupts out of nowhere, forcing Kanai to instantly throw up an absolute barrier to protect everyone from the explosion. This attacker is revealed to be Juman, the twisted old man from the Mage Association, crackling with power. Even with the barrier, the sheer force of the blast sends the little spirit flying backwards. Juman just smirks, commenting
commenting on how tough Kyoki still is, leaving Momo and Siki completely stunned to see the old geezer there. He then starts taunting Kanai, calling him pathetic and declaring the 7 saviors have fallen. When Kanai demands to know what he wants, Juman says he is there to take Ikiluki into custody, adding with a psychotic grin that he will apologize if he just so happens to accidentally kill him. Momo screams for Kanai to protect Ikiluki as the little guy charges forward to fight, but Juman is just gone in a flash, completely disappearing before Kanai can even land a punch. A split second later, Kanai gets absolutely blindsided by a lightning attack from off-screen. He is totally outmatched, admitting he cannot even see the old man's movements. Juman proudly boasts about his lightning speed skill, too fast for the naked eye to follow. He then slams Kanai with a supercharged blow, telling him he is no match for this power. Despite getting wrecked, Kanai pushes himself up, vowing to protect the kid who once saved his life. Back in the real world, Ikiluki's eyes snap open, but he's not quite back yet as he starts floating, surrounded by a swirling vortex of pure dark energy. Momo and Siki are completely stunned, realizing he's somehow woken up mid-ritual, and it looks like his little trip into his own head unlocked a brand new skill, which the system helpfully labels as Extreme Black Eyes. Suddenly, Siki and Momo both collapse, feeling their own magic being drained away. Even the old man John is struggling, realizing Ikiluki's new power is copying everyone's skills indiscriminately, and on top of that, it's absorbing all the magic power from anyone in the vicinity. Kanai is also getting hit hard, barely able to stay conscious from the massive mana drain. The effect is spreading across the city, with random civilians suddenly feeling weak and dizzy. Kanai screams at Ikiluki, calling him out for literally stealing magic from innocent people, but our protagonist just looks down with dead eyes and says he knows, fully aware of what he's doing. He's decided there's no point in a world where everyone has power. He needs to be the only one strong enough to save Mickey, so with a clenched fist, he vows to take everyone's skills and magic to become the absolute strongest. Momo can only watch in horror, begging him to stop this madness. Juman, however, is just loving this, muttering about how Ikiluki is far too dangerous to be left alive. Deciding to take matters into his own hands, he pulls out a pack of what looks like power-up pills. Kanai recognizes it as an S-rank item, a magic enhancer that boosts power by over 100 times. The old man's eyes start glowing as he powers up, crackling with an insane amount of lightning, and with a final terrifying grin, he launches himself forward for a supercharged finishing blow. Just as Juman goes for the kill, his lightning attack gets completely nullified right in front of Ikiluki, and our protagonist coolly reveals he's using a bind skill, telling the fake savior he cannot even lay a finger on him. Ikiluki then unleashes a storm of copied magic, fire, water, and vines all at once, and the barrage sends the old geezer flying, completely overwhelmed by the onslaught. He is in total disbelief, unable to process how the tables turned so fast. Hovering above him, Ikiluki unleashes his first new technique, Extreme Black Light, which absolutely obliterates the old man, engulfing him in a torrent of dark energy. Kana is completely floored, realizing our protagonist is not suffering any recoil from that insane technique. Siki quickly figures it out, explaining he's using the magic he siphoned from everyone to negate the backlash. Momo looks on with a heartbroken expression, asking if this is really his answer, and pleads with him, saying that becoming strong this way just doesn't seem like him at all. His expression remains completely empty, her words not seeming to reach him in the slightest. Kana realizes it's no use. Their words are not reaching the person Ikiluki has become. Ignoring them, Ikiluki announces he's going to find his sister by following the trail of her magic within him. He closes his eyes to focus, using their connection to pinpoint her exact location, and with his eyes glowing, he grins and declares that he can finally see the path to her. And then he reaches up and literally tears a hole in reality, vowing that he's coming for her now. The others are stunned. He just opened the portal by himself. Kanai immediately says they have to follow, but Ikiduki just glances back and coldly tells them he doesn't need them. They're in the way. Momo is left absolutely shattered by his rejection, completely horrified by his words. As Ikiduki disappears into the swirling vortex, Momo screams, refusing to let him go, absolutely determined not to be left behind in this critical moment. And with a desperate cry, she lunges for the portal, vowing not to let him face this alone. Siki can only watch in shock as Kanai gets sucked into the portal right after them.
The scene cuts to a ruined chamber where a mysterious white-haired man confronts the new arrivals. It turns out they have found Miki, but she is unconscious on an altar with two men standing over her. A blonde-haired guy smirks, revealing he knows she was the one who used regression magic. The white-haired man is less amused, annoyed that she also stole the book of regression. He calls her a troublesome girl while she lies there completely helpless. Meanwhile, a strange creature performs a ritual planning to use the magic left in Miki's body for their own ends, but their plan is interrupted when the white-haired man suddenly senses an intrusion. Right on cue, Ikiduki steps through his portal, making a grand entrance into their secret base. Momo and Kai come tumbling out right behind him, begging him to calm down and listen. The portal snaps shut behind them, trapping them all in this strange ruined world. The blonde guy is just thrilled by this development, impressed that Ikiduki found his way there. Ikiduki, however, remains completely silent, his expression cold and unreadable. Seeing this as the perfect opportunity for a fight, the blonde guy powers up and throws a supercharged punch wreathed in dark red energy, landing a solid hit right across Ikiduki's face. The blonde guy boasts about his space transcendent skill, letting him teleport his punches from anywhere, and he claims it is impossible to dodge, so Ikiduki can do nothing but take the beating, taunting that our protagonist is way too slow to even think about fighting back. But his smug attitude evaporates when he realizes something is seriously wrong, because Ikiduki is just standing there completely unfazed by the barrage of hits. He grabs one of the fists midair and coldly demands they give his sister back, then immediately unleashes another extreme black light at point-blank range. The blonde dude is shocked that Ikiduki is somehow even stronger than before, while our protagonist just gathers more dark energy, looking like he is barely even trying, sending his opponent plummeting towards the ground with the force of the blast. Before the guy can recover, Ikiduki is already on him, winding up for a devastating follow-up, and smashes his fist directly into his face with zero hesitation. The impact is absolutely brutal, sending blood flying everywhere, leaving the blonde guy completely stunned and cursing him out. He cannot believe it, wondering how Ikiduki mastered ancient magic when it made him collapse last time. Ikiduki just stares him down, his expression completely cold and unforgiving, as dark tendrils of magic swirl through the air, and we see the energy is being pulled directly from a weakened Momo and Kani. The blonde guy finally puts it together. Ikiduki is getting stronger by stealing power from his own allies. Meanwhile, the white-haired leader looks on with a grin, thinking this whole situation is just awesome. Momo can only watch in horror as Ikiduki continues his brutal beatdown, absolutely pummeling the blonde guy without a shred of mercy, leaving him a bloody mess on the floor, barely able to look up. Ikiduki demands to know where his sister is, and the guy finally spills that she is working for a group called Mobius. Kana is shocked to hear that name, as the blonde guy explains they are warriors from another world, a group of 5 born to protect the order of their own dimension. This revelation leaves Momo completely stunned, trying to process the whole other world thing, and the white-haired leader adds that their job is to perform a magic eating ritual on invading monsters, which is why they sent Ashia to their world. Kana finally connects the dots, realizing these guys are the ones orchestrating the end of the world, but Ikiduki could not care less about their villain monologue, completely dismissing their entire backstory. He gives the blonde guy 5 seconds to tell him where Miki is, or he is dead. Our protagonist starts counting down, his hand glowing with dark energy, ready to end this, but Momo suddenly rushes in and grabs his arm, stopping him just in time. Ikiduki is clearly not happy about being interrupted mid-threat, and she screams at him that he cannot just ignore what is happening. She reminds him his original goal was to protect the world, not just his sister. Momo's words flash through his mind, questioning if he has forgotten Miki's wish and doesn't care about anyone else's fate. He just gives a twisted smile, commenting that Momo's skill is not worthless after all.
Furious at his cold response, Momo yells that this is not the Ikiduki she knows, and she powers up in a blaze of pink energy, declaring he is no savior. Momo's words hit him like a truck, triggering a flashback to a time when someone asked what kind of mage he wanted to be. We see him as a kid being asked by a woman what kind of skill he truly wants, with his younger self excitedly declaring he wants the absolute strongest skill there is. She just smiles and asks what he would even do with a power like that, and little Ikiduki proudly proclaims he would use it to protect his big sister. But his mentor gently tells him that protecting only one person is not enough, because people with great power have a duty to protect everyone. She tells him she's sure he's going to become a great mage one day. Another memory surfaces of the blonde hero, telling a young girl that true strength means reaching out to help anyone in need, and using your power for others is what being a hero is all about. Inspired young Ikiduki asks his mentor if he could ever become a savior too, and she just gives him a reassuring pat on the head, telling him that as long as he never gives up, he definitely can. Back in the present, Ikiduki is clearly shaken, his old ideals crashing against his new reality. But instead of coming to his senses, he violently shoves Momo away with a blast of dark energy. The blonde guy feels his magic suddenly drop, but grins, thinking Ikiduki is now vulnerable enough to finish off. He lunges forward with a furious punch, screaming for our protagonist to die, and he lands a clean hit, knocking Ikiduki to the ground as he stands over him triumphantly. Kana can only watch in confusion, wondering what the hell Ikiduki is doing just taking the hit. But a dark voice in Ikiduki's head urges him to steal more power, insisting he cannot save his sister otherwise. And he seems to agree, his old way was wrong. Ikiduki is completely lost, questioning what is happening inside his own head, as his mind flashes back to his old self, admitting he was always jealous and just wanted to be the strongest. But the real goal was to become a mage his sister could actually be proud of. He wanted to be just like Mickey, a hero who fights for the sake of others, a mage who protects his comrades and all the people who matter to him. It hits him that if he does not become that kind of mage, he won't even be able to face his sister, and he even remembers vowing to her that this time he would become the world's savior. The weight of that promise seems to be causing him actual physical pain, and his memory shifts to a vast library, a pivotal moment in his past. A woman with light blue hair calls out his name, getting his attention, explaining that his creation skill actually changes its form in response to his feelings. A blue aura erupts around him as he finally grasps the nature of his own power, and she presents him with a book, revealing this is the first skill to ever exist, and asks him to name it. Snapping back to the present, Ikiduki is on the ground looking completely wrecked, while Momo crawls over to him desperately calling his name. The blonde dude is completely stunned to see Ikiduki already getting back up, and with his eyes closed in concentration, our protagonist finally names his true skill. His eyes snap open, glowing with a brilliant blue light as he announces its name, Light of Salvation. His opponent is completely baffled, unable to sense any magic power, and assuming this is all just a big bluff, Ikiduki just stands there with his magic power at 0. The blonde guy starts taunting him for being out of gas. The blonde guy is absolutely furious, vowing to kill Ikiduki and everyone with him. But a massive surge of blue magic suddenly erupts from our protagonist, shocking everyone, and Ikiduki explains this is the savior's magic, which only activates when he's protecting someone. Apparently, when he has a reason to fight for others, his magic power becomes limitless. His opponent refuses to believe something so broken exists and charges in with a flurry of punches, but this time, Ikiduki effortlessly deflects every single one of them. The blonde guy is completely baffled since his space jumping attacks are supposed to be impossible to block, and Ikiduki calmly informs him that he now fully understands his skill. It turns out, once Ikiduki sees a skill with his eyes, he can copy it, making it totally ineffective against him. His opponent can only scream that this is cheating, which is a bit rich coming from him. In the blink of an eye, Ikiduki closes the distance and grabs him by the face, ending the fight instantly. Over by the altar, the white-haired leader just stares at the scene, his expression a perfect mix of disbelief and alarm, and mutters that his man Jingi was just taken out. The blindfolded leader on the altar scoffs that Jingi losing to a human is just pathetic, while a new skeleton-faced goon asks if it is time for them to step in and finish the job, but she decides things are taking too long and just leaves, abandoning the scene entirely. Meanwhile, Momo is just thrilled that Ikiduki is back to his old self, giving him a huge hug. And he admits he only unlocked his true power because of her and Kanai's help. Ikiduki genuinely thanks her for reminding him what he is actually supposed to be fighting for, and she just beams, telling him that is what comrades are for. Our protagonist gets all emotional, tearing up as he agrees with her. This moment is cut short when Ikiduki realizes he can sense his sister's magic, but it is fading fast, and Kanai immediately panics, knowing that means she is in serious trouble. Ikiduki tells him to head back to their world while he goes to save Miki alone. But two more members of Mobius suddenly appear to block his path. The new girl, Roku, is casually taking a picture with the defeated Jingi in the background, leaving Kanai completely bewildered, demanding to know who these new weirdos are. The skeleton guy Hyobi just tells him it doesn't matter since they are all about to die anyway, and Ikiduki senses her magic is even stronger than the last guy's, as they declare he cannot interfere with the ritual. Roku gives a creepy grin, asking if they are ready to die for Mobius's cause. Ikiduki prepares for another fight, his hand glowing with the crest of his new power. But the two villains immediately cast a spell creating a massive absolute barrier to isolate him. It separates him from his friends, but Kanai yells for him to go on ahead while they hold the line. Ikiduki hesitates to leave his friends behind, but Momo screams for him to go and save his sister while they can. Visibly moved, he gives them a heartfelt thank you, knowing the opening he made in the barrier will only last a few seconds, which is more than enough time for him to blast off at top speed. The Mobius duo sees him escape and vows to stop him, immediately launching a massive attack to cut off his path. But Momo and Kanai step in to intercept, declaring they are the new opponents. The skeleton guy just finds them annoying, doubting they stand a chance, and Kanai admits that with their old power levels, he would be right. Now, however, they are both crackling with a new energy that Momo feels too. It turns out Ikiduki's Light of Salvation has a hidden ability called the Giver, a seriously powerful skill-sharing ability. He can share his infinite magic with anyone whose skills he's copied, buffing them up. Momo and Kanai accept the power-up, ready to hold the line for their friend. Meanwhile, Ikiduki speeds through the destroyed city when he suddenly senses a massive monstrous magic signature up ahead. He recognizes the Thorn user and prepares his copied skill, which is now supercharged with the light attribute thanks to his new power. As the monster recoils from the light, Ikiduki realizes something is very wrong. He can sense his sister's magic fading, but something is blocking him from getting any closer. He figures out he has been trapped inside some kind of spatial skill, like an invisible maze. With no time for puzzles, he decides to just brute force his way out with a wideout attack. The skill works perfectly, shattering the illusionary space around him like glass, but what he sees on the other side leaves him completely stunned. His sister is lying unconscious on some kind of ritual altar, and the silver-haired man just smirks, saying the ritual is almost complete anyway. Absolutely furious, Ikiduki powers up, demanding they give his sister back immediately. He is not asking nicely, his eyes glowing with pure, unrestrained rage, and he immediately unleashes a massive pure white light beam attack. This villain, however, looks completely unimpressed, flaring his own sinister red aura. He catches the entire blast with one hand, effortlessly deflecting the attack. Ikiduki can only watch in disbelief as his full power move is stopped cold, the beam completely dissipating and leaving him kneeling from the effort. His opponent mockingly tells him to calm down, confirming he just deflected the whole thing. Ikiduki demands to know what the ritual is and what they are doing to Miki, but the guy drops a bombshell, saying she's not actually Ikiduki's big sister, and then claims with a creepy smile that she is their little sister. Our protagonist is just completely lost, unable to process what he just heard. Just then, a familiar voice calls out his name, breaking the tension, and he realizes it is Miki speaking to him telepathically. Even the silver-haired villain seems surprised, noting she is still conscious. Miki thanks Ikiduki for coming and apologizes for all the confusion, then confirms that what Roku said earlier was true. She is a member of Mobius. It turns out, Mobius is a team of 5 warriors gathered from different dimensions by some mage. Miki explains that among the 5 members of Mobius, she was the youngest, and their job was to maintain the monster dimension, basically acting as cosmic zookeepers. They were also in charge of sending those monsters out to invade other worlds. But even back then, she always had doubts about their whole destroy everything mission, questioning whether unleashing chaos across the multiverse was really a good thing. Hearing the screams from the dimensional rifts, she knew in her gut this was all wrong. So one day, she finally voiced her concerns to the rest of the team, but the silver-haired guy just smiled and told her to stop thinking so much. She could not though, declaring that she refused to be part of any more invasions. This did not go over well, as another member grabbed her, telling her to just do her job. The whole team ganged up on her, reminding her of the mission they were given. Her silver-haired brother then declared that abandoning their duty was absolutely unforgivable. Realizing she was completely out of options, she knew she had to get out of there. So she made a break for it and ran away from her team and their dimension. Her only goal was to escape to a different world and finally live a quiet life. As a last-ditch effort, she grabbed the Book of Regression to take with her. She managed to escape their dimension, landing in a completely new world, arriving exhausted and alone on a peaceful-looking path, and the person who found her there was none other than Ikiruki's mom. After that, she was taken in and raised as part of their family. Miki continues her telepathic story, explaining how Ikiruki's mom took her in as a child and raised her with all the love and care of a real daughter. Until one day, something truly wonderful happened. A new baby brother arrived, and that baby, of course, was Ikiruki. She was absolutely overjoyed, finally getting the family she had always dreamed of, a world away from her old Mobius crew, who were bound by chains and duty, because this new family was bound by actual love. She tells him that every single day since they met, from reading her stories as a toddler to walking him to school when he was a kid, her life has been filled with light, all thanks to him. She's just so grateful for every smile, for being welcomed into their home, a happiness she never knew was possible before meeting him. Back in the present, Ikibuki is completely wrecked, tears streaming down his face. But Miki tells him he has grown so strong, and now he has to run away, warning him that Roku is just too powerful to fight. Ikiduki refuses, saying he could never do that because she was the one who taught him to always face his problems head-on and to never give up, because if he tries his best, he will surely succeed. Fueled by her story, Ikiduki swears he is going to take his big sister home, and his entire body erupts in a massive pillar of light as he powers up again. Roku just smirks, telling the outsider to stay quiet because this is a family matter. Ignoring him completely, Ikiduki unleashes another pure white light beam, which gets effortlessly deflected once again, blasting our protagonist to the ground. He realizes he has to be careful, since his attacks could end up hitting Miki by mistake. Trying a new tactic, he teleports to attack from a different angle, but the result is exactly the same, with the beam getting swatted away. He's getting frustrated, realizing that no matter what he does, his light is just reflected. Roku decides to go on the offensive, combining gravity manipulation with a fireball skill, and launches a barrage of flaming meteors right at Ikiduki. The attack connects, slamming into our protagonist and breaking through his aura. The villain smugly explains that no attack will hit him because they all get reflected. Ikiduki is completely stumped, unable to copy or even comprehend this bizarre deflection skill. Roku condescendingly admits Ikiduki is strong, probably the strongest person in his world, but warns him that the more he attacks, the more he will only hurt himself. He tells Ikiduki to just stay still and watch, since the ritual will be over soon anyway. Our protagonist demands to know what the ritual is for, and Roku decides to humor him. It turns out their ultimate goal is to revive the great mage Zero in this era. Ikiduki has no idea who that is, so Roku clarifies he's the progenitor mage, the first being in their world to possess magic and the founder of Mobius. But his existence has since vanished, which is why they started focusing on regression magic, a forbidden power that can grant immense strength and even transcend time itself, and their ultimate goal is to use it to revive Zero's soul in the current era. He notes that Miki stole that power, casually wondering who she might have used it on, but it is not a problem, because they can just use the regression magic still lingering inside her, effectively turning her into a vessel to bring their master back to life. Ikiduki is horrified, demanding to know what will happen to his sister once Zero is revived. With a chilling smile, Roku says they will kill her, since they have no use for traitors. Our protagonist is completely stunned, desperately trying to figure out what he can possibly do, knowing he has to save his sister but can't even land a hit on this guy, when he suddenly notices a strange crest glowing on the back of Mickey's hand. He recognizes it as his sister's crest, and a desperate idea begins to form. Realizing it's a massive gamble with no guarantee, he decides he has to take the risk, and instead of a beam, he forms a pure white light holy sword in his hand. Roku just scoffs, still confident that any attack is completely meaningless against him, but his smug expression instantly vanishes as his eyes widen in pure shock because Ikiduki's attack was not aimed at him. Roku is left completely stunned, unable to process what Ikiduki just did. The entire scene shatters like glass, revealing Ikiduki was never in the same room to begin with, and that holy sword that stabbed Mickey actually just pierced Roku in the real world. Ikiduki announces he is finally back from the mirror world Roku trapped him inside. Wiping blood from his mouth, Roku asks him just when he figured out the whole trick. Ikiduki explains he noticed Mickey's crest was on her left hand, a dead giveaway. It was a reflection, which made him realize Roku was not using a deflection skill at all, but had instead set up a dimensional trap in advance. He created a pocket dimension that bounced everything back, effectively trapping our protagonist inside. So to get out, he had to find the exit and destroy it, just like he did in the maze. He gambled that Roku, being a predictable villain, would place the exit on Mickey. Roku admits he's impressive, but then reveals with a bloody smirk that the ritual is already complete. Ikiduki's face absolutely drops as he realizes he might have been too late after all. Even the other Mobius members are completely stunned by this sudden turn of events, with the entire team just standing there not knowing what to do next. As Ikiduki rushes to his sister, Roku tells him it is useless because the end of the world is coming. Our protagonist can only watch in horror, completely powerless for a moment. Now holding Mickey, he's told this is all his fault because his massive magic power changed everything, turning his once peaceful world into a prime target for invasion. The entire chamber starts to collapse around them as Roku declares Zero will be revived, and he looks absolutely thrilled about the coming destruction. As the chamber continues to fall apart, the remaining Mobius members can only stand and watch, but Ikiduki manages to catch Mickey midair as she screams his name in terror, while the rest of her former team just looks on completely stunned by the turn of events. Suddenly, a massive vortex opens up, pulling Ikiduki, Mickey, and the entire Mobius crew into the darkness. When the dust settles, Roku is left lying alone in the ruins, clearly defeated. A footstep sounds right beside his head, belonging to the one he worked so hard to revive. The great mage Zero looks down and asks if this pathetic guy is the one who woke him. But then Zero senses something else in the air, a familiar power. Noticing the very same creation crest on his own hand, realizing there's another user out there, he recognizes it as the power of creation itself, a power he thought was his alone. A wave of his immense magical energy washes over the ruined landscape, and with a smirk, he turns his attention to the monsters he's just awakened. It turns out he's brought back an entire army of colossal beasts from the monster dimension. He looks down at the bleeding Roku and muses about how beautiful his monsters are, never changing, calling them pure life for simply following their instincts to devour magic. Thanking Roku for the wake-up call, he compares that pure monster instinct to humans, as Roku's body begins to grotesquely swell and distort. With the creation crest glowing on his fist, Zero makes his final judgment, declaring humans ugly before completely obliterating his loyal follower in a bloody explosion. The scene then cuts abruptly to the quiet, peaceful exterior of Ikiruki's family home. And just like that, Ikiruki and Mickey are back home, standing at their front door before their mom. After everything they have been through, they finally get to say they are home. And their mom just breaks down, pulling them both into a massive, tearful hug. It is a genuinely heartwarming reunion, everyone just happy to be together and safe. Later, Mickey apologizes for putting him through all this trouble, but Ikiruki is not having it. He just tells her that as long as she is safe, nothing else matters. She is still amazed at how strong he has become, admitting she never expected him to go so far. But Ikiruki's mood darkens, remembering Roku's final warning that the end of the world is coming. His mind flashes back to the villain's taunts, promising that the world would soon soon perish. And worse, the guy had pinned all the blame directly on Ikiruki, claiming his massive magic power turned their entire world into a giant target for invasion. The weight of that hits our protagonist hard, realizing this whole mess might actually be his fault. Miki notices his distress, but she has something important to tell him. It turns out she erased her own skill when she came to this world so Mobius could not track her. But now, thanks to Ikiruki, her crest has returned and her power is back online. He is stunned to hear its ancient magic, but she assures him she can handle it without any backlash. When he asks what it does, she explains that ancient magic typically controls time, space, or life. She then gets up to give him a little demonstration of her own unique ability, using her power to bring a dying plant back to full, vibrant life with just a touch. Her ancient magic is revealed to be time manipulation, complete with some flashy clockwork effects, and she demonstrates by rewinding a flower's time, making it bloom instantly with a single touch. Ikiruki is blown away, but she clarifies it only works on objects, plants, and monsters, not humans. With this power back, Miki declares she can finally be useful in the coming fight for the world. Our protagonist is clearly moved by his sister's determination to stand with him, and he takes her hand, showing they're in this together now. Ikiruki tells her straight up that she's not alone in this fight anymore. So Miki smiles, vowing that they're going to protect their world as a team. Her words seem to strengthen his own resolve, and he agrees with a determined smile, ready to face whatever is coming. And just then, Ikiruki gets an idea for how they're going to handle this apocalypse. The scene cuts to a formal gathering where Ikiruki is on stage addressing a massive crowd of mages. The audience is already buzzing about rumors about him defeating number 7 and number 2. He formally introduces himself as the licensed mage Ikuda and drops the bombshell that the prophesied end of the world is officially on its way. But he did not just gather everyone for a doomsday announcement. He has a plan. His big reveal is the formation of a new 7 saviors, which leaves the crowd completely stunned. First up on the new team is a woman with serious style named Igima, followed by Kanamomo, the pink-haired girl holding a very unimpressed looking little guy. And that grumpy little guy's name is apparently Kaio Rambo. Next up is Susaki Aori, who seems to be mid-snack during this world-ending announcement, followed by his very own sister Miki, looking ready for a fight, and the intensely serious Sagi Tetsu, who definitely does not smile, rounding out the rest of the new 7 Saviors team, with Ikiruki himself at the center, promising this crew will save the world. The crowd absolutely eats it up, cheering that they are all counting on him. But our protagonist immediately shuts him down, yelling that it is not enough, because just 7 people cannot possibly save the entire world on their own. He rallies them, saying they need to combine everyone's power to stand a chance, which is broadcast across the city to people who feel completely useless. So Ikiruki tells them to stop thinking like that right now, declaring that he wants everyone to realize that they are the true saviors. Even his new pink-haired teammate seems impressed by the classic hero speech, and the crowd gets fired up, remembering they have skills and can actually help, which makes Ikiruki smile, confident that if everyone unites, they can win. But at that exact moment, a dark presence washes over the hall as a clock shatters, and someone in the crowd screams that portals are opening in the sky, revealing a full-blown invasion of what looks like S-rank or higher monsters. The guy who sensed them is horrified, realizing they've arrived way too soon. But Sagitu just powers up, vowing to erase every single one of them. As the monsters pour through the portals, one of them lets out a terrifying roar. But Ikiruki just reaffirms that their mission has not changed one bit, and his entire team of 7 saviors powers up, ready to stop this invasion for good. He activates a skill called Light of Salvation, buffing his entire crew, and Kanamomo is stunned as she feels Ikiruki's immense magic power flowing into them. Meanwhile, civilians across the city are confused as the sky suddenly darkens and begins to snow, which turns out to be Sagi Tetsu's doing, who scoffs that he doesn't need a power-up anyway. With a single swing of his massive ice sword, he flash freezes an entire horde of monsters, calling his handiwork the Flowers of Absolute Zero, with maximum edge. Ikiduki tells him to handle this area while the rest of them split up to cover more ground, and the other saviors immediately leap off to defend different parts of the city. Out on the streets, terrified civilians are running for their lives from a massive worm monster, but Suzaki Aori drops in to deploy an absolute barrier to protect them. With the civilians shielded, Igahima tells her she can finally go all out, her hands already glowing as she prepares a massive spell. Unleashing her skill arsenal, which summons a storm of golden swords, this reign of 10,000 absolutely shreds the monsters in the area. And while Kyoki calls her the shield of the saviors, she tells him not to lump her in with the team. Just as they finish, an even bigger skeletal beast appears, drawn by Ikiduki's overflowing power, and the newly empowered civilians start to doubt if they can really fight something so terrifying. Ikiduki's speech totally works as another mage steps up to rally the crowd, telling them that they can do this, unleashing a massive fire buff that engulfs the entire area in a red flame of pure morale. And just like that, the regular citizens are juiced up, their eyes glowing with newfound confidence. And with a battle cry, they charge straight into the fray to fight the invading monsters themselves. Even Kana Momo is a little surprised to see the civilians actually holding their own against the horde, so she flies down to an injured woman, taking on the role of the team's dedicated healer. A quick heal ball patches her up instantly, leaving her completely stunned, and Kana tells her to bring any other wounded mages her way, establishing a mobile aid station. Elsewhere, Miki faces down her own set of monsters, thinking about how she once supported this invasion, but now, with her time magic flaring, she is determined to be the one to stop it. She used to just listen to screams, but now she is the one actively protecting people with her power, musing on the irony of it all while trapping a monster's head in a time-stopping gear. Her resolve is absolute as she continues to fight, fully embracing her new role as a protector. Ikiduki himself is leading a charge of empowered civilians against a swarm of flying beasts, and he can't help but smile seeing that his crazy plan to unite everyone is actually working. The people he inspired are fighting with everything they've got, and it's an incredible sight. But then he spots a couple of familiar faces in the crowd of fighters. It's Iwashida and Kusano, two of his old classmates, powered up and running into battle alongside everyone else. He remembers Iwashida from back in the school library, and the other was Kusano, who was with him, leaving Ikiduki completely stunned to see them there. His old classmates are literally bowing on the ground, apologizing for how they treated him before, admitting that seeing him get so strong made them feel ashamed of themselves. But there's no time for a heart-to-heart, because a giant mechanical skullbot is bearing down on them, so they decide to use the power Ikiduki gave them to finally fight for real. Kusano immediately hits the monster with some slick gravity manipulation, while Iwashida skewers another one from below with his new Thorn user ability. Ikiduki watches them, thinking that with everyone fighting together, they might actually have a chance to win this. And of course, right on cue, a brand new, even more ominous portal rips open in the sky. Our protagonist immediately feels a terrifying presence from it, wondering what fresh hell this is, as a new boss-level character descends, surrounded by a swarm of demonic-looking monsters. This new arrival is a long-haired blonde guy who looks entirely too calm for an apocalypse. He looks down on Ikiduki from above, simply identifying him as a human, before revealing he is also a human who possesses a special power just like him. Ikiduki is completely thrown, recognizing the glowing symbol on the guy's hand as a white crest, an intricate glowing pattern crackling with serious energy. Suddenly, all the monsters on the battlefield start glowing with the same power, their behavior changing instantly. Ikiduki immediately demands to know what this guy just did to them, and the blonde dude casually explains he is just giving them a little magic and physical strength buff. Not only that, he's also amplifying their killing instinct, calling his power creation, this primordial magic that gives form to wishes, as the nearby monster mutates into something way worse. This new guy, Zero, boasts that with his power of creation, nothing is impossible, and Ikiduki immediately recognizes it as primordial magic, realizing the legendary Zero has been resurrected. Zero just gives him that smug, all-powerful look, basically confirming Ikiduki's worst fears, complaining about his unpleasant awakening and how noisy the world has become. In his eyes, all of humanity is just a mass of ugly creatures stained with greed, and he finds the newly empowered civilians fighting for their lives to be particularly repulsive. Ikiduki demands to know why he he's trying to end the world. So Zero decides to explain his grand wish, which is basically that humanity is worthless, while monsters acting on pure instinct are the true natural order. He even has the audacity to ask Ikiduki if he finds this beautiful, which obviously does not go over well. Zero continues his nihilistic rant, saying no human is worth saving, not even himself, but Ikiduki is not having it, yelling that people live with hope. As he powers up to shut him down for good, he unleashes a massive blast of pure white light directly at the new boss, and the attack connects with a huge screen-clearing explosion. For a second, it looks like it might have worked, but Ikiduki's face tells a different story, because when the smoke clears, Zero is just standing there, completely unharmed. This guy didn't even flinch, mockingly asking if that's all the power a human can muster. Zero explains that if he takes out Ikiduki, the light of salvation, all of humanity's newfound hope will vanish with him. So he powers up his creation magic once again, ready to make an example out of them, juicing up that giant skeletal monster until it's roaring with overwhelming dark energy. Ikiduki can only watch in horror as the already dire situation gets exponentially worse. Ikiduki zips across the ruined street, narrowly dodging a powerful blast from Zero, who taunts him asking if he's afraid. But Ikiduki knows that if he loses there, it is all over, flashing back to the apocalyptic future he is trying to prevent, a world completely annihilated where he saw countless people, including his former comrades, brutally killed, and even his strongest allies fell, leaving him completely alone in the end, which makes him realize that if he fails now, his entire regression was for nothing, and the weight of all those past failures is fueling his resolve to not let it happen again. Back in the fight, he powers up, screaming he cannot afford to lose, while Zero just calls him foolish. But Ikiduki retorts that this world has already ended once, and he is not about to watch it burn again, immediately unleashing a bind skill that sends thorny chains shooting towards the villain, and the attack connects, wrapping Zero up completely in a thorny prison. So with the boss restrained, Ikiduki decides to go for the kill, combining his own skills for a massive follow-up attack, mixing gravity manipulation with fireball to summon a literal meteor shower down on Zero's head. But Zero just stands there amidst the fiery apocalypse and calls the whole thing worthless, as the meteors freeze in mid-air, leaving Ikiduki completely stunned as to when he even did that. So our protagonist quickly throws up an absolute barrier combined with future prediction to brace for the counterattack, realizing in horror that Zero is casting this insane magic without any chanting at all. And Zero scoffs that even for someone who has surpassed humanity, Ikiduki's magic is pathetically shallow. Then comes the gut punch. Zero reveals that all of these skills, Thorn User, Gravity Manipulation, even Absolute Barrier, are powers that he created. Ikiduki is completely stunned, barely able to process that Zero just claimed to have created all his skills. And Zero casually admits that Ikiduki's white light is the only magic he does not recognize. He demands to know what it is, but the sheer pressure of his mana keeps Ikiduki pinned to the ground, while he boasts that he could easily replicate any of Ikiduki's other abilities if he wished. As Ikiduki feels that overwhelming power, a horrifying realization finally starts to click into place. Zero decides to give him a practical demonstration, charging up a ball of pure energy in his hand, unleashing a devastating beam of purple light straight at our protagonist, and the force sends Ikiduki flying, completely unable to comprehend what is happening. This attack is a massive city-cleaving blast of pure destructive power, and Ikiduki knows instantly that none of his skills can possibly stop this thing. He braces for impact, thinking he is not going to make it out of this one alive, but the beam narrowly misses, carving a massive canyon right through the city streets instead. Ikiduki realizes Zero missed on purpose, a warning shot that would have vaporized him instantly. Zero smugly explains that this is the gap in their power, and he will not be so merciful next time. He tells Ikiduki, the one who inherited his creation magic, to simply give up and despair. This triggers a memory for Ikiduki, something he read a long time ago in the school library, flashing back to a book about the legendary progenitor mage who created all magic 150 years ago. Ikiduki yells that the legend said magic was created to make people happy, so he demands to know why Zero, its creator, hates humanity so much. Zero just looks down at him, calmly offering to tell him a little story from the past. Zero starts his villain monologue, explaining he was born into this world 150 years ago and was apparently the very first human to ever awaken to magic, seeing it as a miraculous power that could heal the sick and make the world a better place. So, in a fit of optimism, he decided to grant this magic to all of humanity, a power that would later be known as the legendary ancient magic.
magic. Unfortunately, the raw power was way too much for the average human body to handle, so he learned to divide it into different elements to make it more compatible for everyone, simplifying it into the various skills and abilities people use today. He was so sure this would bring happiness, but quickly learned that humans are just ugly, greedy creatures. And he tells Ikiduki he can probably guess what happened next, because as soon as magic spread, people immediately started using it for their own selfish desires, with every new mage just adding to the bloodshed and chaos. Completely disillusioned, he just packed up and moved to the spirit world instead, where he wandered around and encountered monsters that feed on mana and humans. But unlike people, they lived by pure instinct, which he found to be dazzlingly pure, confirming his belief that humanity is just an irredeemably greedy and sinful race. So he came up with a new plan: send S-rank monsters to eradicate humanity and purify the world, which is the entire purpose of this whole invasion, leaving Ikiduki completely floored. To get the ball rolling, he gathered a bunch of pure kids, founded Mobius, and tasked them with supporting his apocalypse. And then, having set his grand plan in motion, he put himself into a long slumber to wait it out. He complains that he was supposed to sleep through the whole apocalypse, but got resurrected early. And just to be clear, he finds the current state of the world completely and utterly repulsive. Ikiduki is just stunned as Zero takes full credit for starting this entire mess, boasting that it does not matter if Mobius fails or if Ikiduki tries to stop him. His wish is absolute. Then, with some truly next-level will and logic, he declares he will end the world to save it. And when Ikiduki argues back, Zero reminds him that creation magic is literally the power to make wishes come true. So in a battle of wishes like this, the one with the stronger desire is guaranteed to win. And would you know it, his ultimate wish is the complete and total extinction of humanity. Our protagonist feels that insane mana spike again, realizing Zero is about to make his move, as Zero gives him a dead-eyed stare, challenging him to put his life on the line. Ikiduki tries to counter, but he is suddenly trapped by pillars of glowing energy, his body completely frozen inside a massive, intricate magic circle on the ground. Zero just calmly tells him to learn his place, because his wish is simply stronger than anyone's, as he channels overwhelming power through his own crest. With that, he unleashes a devastating beam of purple energy straight at our protagonist, and the attack connects in a massive pillar of light, absolutely tearing through the city block. Ikiduki takes the full force of the blast, getting completely obliterated by the impact, and is left lying in a crater, battered and broken from the overwhelming attack. Down below, the newly empowered civilians look up in horror as his light of salvation just vanishes. Zero just looms over him, mockingly saying, "It looks like your light of salvation has finally gone out." Just as Ikiduki is about to fade, a familiar face with angelic wings swoops down from the sky, and it is Momo, desperately trying to keep him from dying right there in her arms. Zero, however, is completely over this touching reunion and commands his monsters to attack, ordering them to just overrun and wipe out everyone left on the ground. These empowered monsters immediately surge forward, overwhelming the remaining defenders, who realize the tide of the battle has suddenly and violently turned against them. As Momo cries out for Ikiduki not to die, she unleashes a massive wave of healing energy that completely engulfs his body. Our protagonist's wounds instantly vanish, leaving him more confused than grateful at first. Zero analyzes the phenomenon, realizing she did not just heal him, she literally reversed time on his body. Ikiduki stands up fully restored and crackling with a new blue aura. Much to Zero's surprise, he asks Momo if her ambition was to become stronger than him, and Zero seems genuinely intrigued by this unexpected power display. Ikiduki powers up, his new energy flaring to life around him. He gives Momo a confident smile, thanking her for the save, which makes her blush. The two of them rise into the air ready for round 2, leaving Zero momentarily stunned. With his confidence restored, he tells her that everything is going to be okay now. This triggers a memory for Momo of when Ikiduki first transferred, realizing how much he has changed. She tells him to go save the world, and he gives him a thumbs up, ready for action. But Zero instantly teleports in front of them, asking with a grin who said they could leave. Zero's not about to let them just fly off, blocking their path with a smug grin. So Ikiduki unleashes a massive pillar of light down on the monster horde below. Zero just scoffs, noting that while Ikiduki's power has spiked, he is still just a human.
Ikiduki fires back that Zero is the one who's given up, insisting humanity is not as ugly as he thinks. This villain is completely unmoved, calling humans the very definition of self-interested filth. So Ikiduki asks him point blank if that is really why he's going to end the world, and Zero confirms it without a hint of hesitation. He is going to destroy everything himself. Ikiduki argues that with his power, he could save the world, but Zero says he's only interested in his own hope. That's when it clicks for our protagonist. If creation magic grants wishes, then he'll just have to overpower Zero's. He declares that his wish is to save this world from him, and unlike Zero's, his wish has absolutely nothing to do with despair. With that, he cocks his fist back, ready to throw down with the creator of magic himself. He zips forward with incredible speed, moving faster than Zero can even track, leaving the villain standing there completely flat-footed. Zero barely has time to wonder where he went before Ikiduki's fist is right in his face. The sheer speed and physical power are completely off the charts, catching him by surprise. For the first time, the progenitor mage is actually feeling pressured by another person's magic. Ikiduki moves like a blur, creating after images as he closes the distance in an instant. Zero can only rage about being challenged by mere humans right before Ikiduki lands a clean punch straight to his jaw, leaving him utterly stunned. This punch sends Zero flying backwards, completely unable to process why he's being overpowered. And Ikiduki's fist connects so hard that the progenitor mage is actually bleeding for the first time. Zero crashes down into the ruined city like a meteor, kicking up a massive explosion of debris, while Ikiduki tells him to take a good look at the world he is so desperate to destroy, asking if Zero really believes humanity only uses magic for selfish reasons, pointing to the people below who are actively using their powers to shield and heal each other. Zero gets back up completely unmoved by Ikiduki's argument that magic is meant to protect people. Instead, he decides it is time for another one of his cynical history lessons, telling a story about the first guy to get Fireball, who used it to extort the desperate for healing. This villain was so greedy that people gave up their land, their families, and even their lives for his help. Zero dismisses any good deeds as pure coincidence, claiming humanity's malice is an unstoppable force. He insists that no matter what Ikiduki says, using magic for greed is the fundamental nature of the world. But Ikiduki just calls him out, saying the real problem is that Zero himself has simply given up. After all, destroying the world is a whole lot easier than actually trying to protect it. Zero is absolutely not having it, calling Ikiduki's entire argument complete nonsense. Ikiduki, however, knows from experience that people can create a happy future if they do not give up. With that renewed conviction, he begins gathering a massive amount of energy into his hand, compressing all of that raw power into a single blindingly bright point. Zero realizes in shock that our protagonist is forging a holy sword out of pure magic with ridiculous ease. Not to be outdone, Zero creates his own massive energy blade, telling the mere human to not get cocky. The two finally clash their massive energy swords, tearing the sky apart, their powers colliding with enough force to level what's left of the city block. Zero mocks Ikiduki, asking if he really thinks not giving up is a viable strategy. As the shockwave from their fight just rips through another skyscraper, he keeps ranting that sheer willpower won't just hand Ikiduki the future he wants, insisting the future belongs only to the strong, the ones who control history and wealth. In his mind, the weak don't even get a choice in the matter. But then he stops, noticing the look of pure, unwavering resolve in Ikiduki's eyes, genuinely confused as to how a human can still look so full of hope. He just can't comprehend why our protagonist is so sure he's going to win this. Getting angrier that Ikiduki believes in victory so deeply, Ikiduki calmly explains that he's always liked magic, even though he couldn't use it until recently, remembering his old life and saying he was just happy to finally be useful to someone. Zero scoffs that magic doesn't grant wishes, but Ikiduki fires back that wishes become magic, and with that simple belief, he declares he's going to save everyone in this world. His holy sword flares with power, completely shattering Zero's blade and slicing right through him, sending the progenitor mage flying back, bleeding heavily from the chest wound. He clutches the injury in total disbelief, calling the whole situation ridiculous. As his vision fades, Ikiduki's words about saving people with magic echo in his mind, which just sends him into a full-blown meltdown, screaming in rage at being beaten by human emotion. As Zero plummets from the sky, defeated, dark energy just pouring out of his body, Ikiduki just watches him fall, still holding the holy sword that ended the fight. The progenitor mage can only stare in disbelief, unable to process how he lost. Our protagonist tells him that humans are not ugly. This world is actually beautiful. He then declares that it's time to show Zero his true ability, much to the villain's confusion. With that, Ikiduki slams the hilt of his light sword straight into the ground, activating his ultimate skill, Light of Salvation, in a blinding flash of energy. Suddenly, the entire world around them transforms into a massive library, with pages flying everywhere. It turns out those pages are actually skill books swirling around them in a vortex of power. Ikiduki has dragged Zero into his own personal domain, a library of every skill he has ever acquired. With Zero trapped inside, Ikiduki announces it is finally time to settle things for good. The scene then flashes back, explaining how this place became such a magnificent library. We see a younger Ikiduki just starting to build his collection of abilities. It turns out this entire dimension started out with just 2 simple books. Now, every single volume is proof of a battle Ikiduki fought to protect the world. He once asked his system guide, Bind, if he could use all of these skills at the same time. Bind warned him that activating so many at once would be impossible for his body to handle. Ikiduki seemed to accept that limitation back then, just taking in the information. Bind just looks at him with concern, probably realizing what he is about to attempt now. The scene then flashes back to Ikiduki telling Zero he is about to see his true power. Zero is completely stunned by this sudden and absolute change of scenery, but quickly recovers, calling it a magnificent trick, while summoning his own blade to fight back. A magic circle ignites under him as he prepares to unleash his own power from a floating platform. Even trapped in Ikiduki's territory, Zero is still brimming with his own dark energy, and he gives our protagonist a look that says he is not even remotely impressed. To prove his point, he summons the phantom beast Fuma, a massive flaming tiger, which gets immediately and brutally shredded by one of Ikiduki's unseen attacks. Zero is shocked, realizing Ikiduki is already using multiple skills at once, including gravity manipulation. A whole barrage of different elemental attacks come flying at him from all directions, but Zero just scoffs, calling all of these high-level skills completely pathetic. He insists they are all meaningless, right as Ikiduki's silhouette appears right in front of him. A hand covered in mud suddenly grabs his sword arm, stopping him completely cold. The progenitor mage realizes in shock he was distracted by a simple mud doll decoy. At that exact same moment, his feet are frozen solid to the ground by an ice spell. Completely immobilized and outplayed, Zero can only stare down in utter disbelief. With his body locked down, Zero frantically searches for where Ikiduki's real self is hiding, but a massive holy sword is already materializing right behind his head. Ikiduki appears in a flash, letting the villain know he's right there, causing Zero to spin around and counter with his own dark blades, screaming not to be underestimated. His defense is instantly useless as Ikiduki summons a literal storm of weapons out of thin air, and the sheer volume of attacks is about to completely overwhelm the progenitor mage. In a panic, he unleashes a massive vortex of dark energy just to stay alive, which collides with the weapon barrage in a reality-shattering explosion. Zero just cannot process it. The kid is using countless high-level spells without any chanting, and he starts screaming, demanding to know where Ikiduki is getting this impossible amount of mana. The resulting blast is absolutely massive, engulfing everything in sight. When the dust settles, Zero is standing in a crater looking completely rattled. He glances up in pure shock at what he sees floating above him, finding Ikiduki calmly hovering amidst the swirling vortex of his skillbooks. The progenitor mage can only stare, finally realizing just how outclassed he truly is. Ikiduki then unleashes another devastating beam of light straight down on him, slamming Zero into the ground so hard it cracks the very foundation of the dimension. Barely getting up, Zero asks if our protagonist has finally used up all of his skills. Ikiduki just looks down and confirms that yes, he has. He then explains that while he cannot use them all at once, he found a loophole, summoning them to act on their own. Zero scoffs at the idea of free will, insisting magic is only about absolute dominion. But Ikiduki explains that the skills themselves are actively trying to stop him. The progenitor mage calls this impossible, screaming that magic cannot have a will of its own. Our protagonist just calmly replies that it does. Magic is alive. Completely fed up, Zero summons another massive dark energy sword, screaming for Ikiduki to shut up as he swings it with everything he has left. This fight spills back out into the real world, with both of them clashing high above the city ruins. Ikiduki lands gracefully, while Zero demands to know why he just doesn't get it. He reminds Zero that he's the one who created all this magic in the first place, and their blades lock once again in a furious stalemate. The resulting shockwave tears through the air between them. Zero starts getting desperate, guessing that Ikiduki must have had some grand purpose for creating magic. And in that moment, Ikiduki seems to finally understand Zero's original intentions, realizing the feelings the progenitor mage once entrusted to humanity. This just infuriates Zero, who yells that Ikiduki could not possibly know anything about him. He declares his only wish is to purify the world and forge a new future for himself. Ikiduki just looks at him with pity, telling him it's okay to stop trying so hard. With his hand raised to the sky, he promises to save him right now. As the skill book for Light of Salvation materializes in a brilliant flash, this summons a massive spiritual entity called the White Book to tower over the battlefield. Zero stares up at the colossal White Book, completely baffled by this unknown magic, and starts screaming for it to stop as purple energy begins to bind him. Ikiduki explains this is the end. The skill will erase all of Zero's abilities and mana. The progenitor mage is completely overwhelmed, screaming as his very existence is rewritten, flashing through memories of all the people he's affected throughout his long, twisted life. In his final moments, a vision of his original, much kinder self appears before him. As Ikiduki tells him this is a chance to start a new life, completely free from his old power. With that, Zero finally goes limp, his reign of terror seemingly over for good. But the strain of using that ultimate skill was way too much, and Ikiduki starts to collapse, falling backwards completely exhausted from the fight. Just before he hits the ground, his sister Miki appears out of nowhere to catch him. As she holds our protagonist, the now powerless Zero just lies on the ground with a faint smile. He weakly says there is actually one thing he needs to thank them for, and Miki explains that because of him, she was able to meet Ikiduki and learn to love the world. She gives him a genuine thank you as he lies peacefully on the ground. With Zero's defeat, the system confirms that the buff powering up all the monsters has vanished. All over the world, the weakened creatures are now being easily mopped up by humanity's forces, with one hunter shown one-shotting a massive boss with a huge ice spell. Elsewhere on the battlefield, a man with blue hair spots Miki helping the exhausted Ikiduki, and he turns his attention to the last remaining monster, ready to end this once and for all. With the battle finally over, the pink-haired girl comes sprinting over, calling out Ikiduki's name, as the rest of his allies gather on the ruined battlefield, relieved that he actually won, and she leaps right into his arms, celebrating the fact that he saved their world. We jump forward 1 month to find the city in full reconstruction mode, with mages and volunteers working around the clock to repair the extensive damage. Elsewhere, someone wonders whatever happened to the now powerless Zero, but a certain blonde-haired man seems confident he will find his way, hoping the former villain can discover a new reason to live in this world. Meanwhile, at what looks to be the new official headquarters, trouble is brewing. A woman bursts in to report a new gate has appeared with 2 S-rank monsters inside, and everyone is shocked, realizing these must be lingering aftershocks from Zero's defeat. A calm woman asks for instructions from the man at the head of the table, who is none other than our protagonist Ikiduki, now taking on the role of Archmage. He immediately starts delegating the mission to his sister and the other top hunters, and the blue-haired guy's team confidently heads out, promising to clear it in 5 seconds. Just as they leave, the pink-haired girl takes a call at the 7th Savior HQ, but the news she gets on the other end seems to completely blindside her. It turns out people at a reconstruction site are now fighting over the use of magic. Ikiduki decides to handle this political mess himself, asking 2 others for backup. He straightens his tie, ready to solve the kind of problems you cannot just punch. As he heads out, Ikiduki reflects that changing the world is a slow, gradual process, but he is met in the main hall by his sister Miki and the pink-haired girl, ready to help, and he gives them a confident smile, certain that they can make a real difference together.